Thank you, sir.
All right, I'm going to get started. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, so let's kick off the study session of Urbana School District 116. Roll call, please.
Member Cheryl? Here. Member Hickson?
Here.
Member Marabou? Member Jones? Member Langendorf here? Vice President Baxley?
Here.
President Pulowski?
Here, we do have a quorum. Member Jones will be arriving late. Member Marabu isn't able to attend this evening. Are there any additions, corrections, or modifications to tonight's agenda? Nope. Move on to citizen statements then. If anybody here present wishes to make a statement before the board, please fill out a goldenrod sheet in the back of the room and hand it to Recording Secretary Lori Johnson. I have yet to receive any. And see no indication from the audience of any wishing to make a statement, so let's move on. There will be no executive session after tonight's meeting, so the chair would then entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda as published.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now it is time for our student ambassador report.
So our report for August 7th.
This report will consist of the student survey responses that we previously sent out to students. I think last August 31st, I believe, is when we started to send those out. And we're just going to roll out the responses that we got from students on that survey.
So here's the responses.
So we asked students a different series of questions, just basically trying to get a better understanding of what happens that we can't see, or just gives us some things that we can advocate for as student ambassadors. So things such as resources and just how easy is it to access resources around the building. We did ask that, and we did get some really good kind of responses off that. Most of them is just because they feel as like or like staff do a lot during the day, so maybe finding a time to meet with them or finding a time to talk may not be the best thing, since they do have busy schedules, but just kind of having, I guess, the availability for someone who students can come and talk to, or just talk to about daily things.
And then we asked, do you feel like your voice is heard? And we got 67.6% said yes, and 32.4% said no. And then we asked a follow-up question to this.
So these are the responses from students who said no. And so these are some of the reasons as to why students said no. Generally because of age. Staff and students share the same dislikes, but often feel like they're ignored. Or students will talk to admin about issues, and it'll just go over admin's head, or they think that, it just kind of gets pushed off to the side. And so we've been working with admin to kind of make sure that we are still hearing their voices and that things are not actually being pushed to the side.
So then we asked, have you been treated unfairly by school rules? And we had around 30% say yes and around 70% say no. So pretty good response for that one.
Yeah. Do you feel supported at UHS? A lot of kids said yes, which is always a great thing. We want students to feel supported, and feel like that they have someone who is there to help them when they need it. For students who may not feel like they are supported, that gets answered, or those responses get filled.
So as a follow-up question, we asked, what could we do to support you? And we had a couple specific responses about that there's no advanced dual language classes, so students expressing that they would like to go further in the dual language classes. And then we saw a couple responses about teachers not supporting students, which was a little bit interesting to us because when we asked the question, you'll see later, but we asked the question, like, do you feel supported and do you feel teachers like, what do you feel UHS does right? And a lot of people said they feel as though the staff cares a lot about them and puts in a lot of effort. So we're kind of planning on talking to students and kind of seeing where that disconnect is, maybe what that difference is. Because we did get lots of responses on this of saying, like, teachers weren't always there to support them. So we kind of want to look more into that and see what exactly that's about. And then we got multiple responses about better counseling to either help plan future, help plan college applications, or to just, like, go to personal problems. Because I do know from personal experience the school counselors, there's only 4 of them for lots of students, and so they do tend to be, like, very, very busy, especially around times of the beginning of the semester, beginning of the school year, end of the school year. They tend to be really, really busy, so it can be really hard to get into them. So we had quite a few students expressing that they would like to have that more easily accessible and just better counseling with that in general.
Moving on, we asked students, do they think that the school is clean and well maintained? Many said no. And many say no for the reason specifically resolving around the bathrooms. We have been having a lot of issues with the bathrooms lately, just from them being vandalized or trashed. We had talked with Mr. Guzman, and he actually has the custodial staff on a log. And so they go into the bathrooms, I think he said every 2 hours, and they log the exact time and the exact thing that they did. And he even showed that to us, and we've seen that they've been marking it and, using it, for its purpose. So now it's really just about is students keeping up with the maintenance of the bathrooms instead of trashing them. So, I mean, it would mean nothing if custodial staff come and clean it at a certain time and then it gets dirtied again. So we can't put the blame on the custodial staff because they did do what they said that they were doing. It's just about students being responsible enough to actually maintain the bathrooms.
So then we asked the question, list a few things UHS does right. And this is what I was talking about earlier of a little bit of a disconnect, but we got lots and lots of responses about great support from teachers and staff. We got lots of responses about making sure students are safe and that the admin is very attentive. Rule enforcement, we got lots of responses on, I think especially in the last couple of years. They have been definitely cracking down on a lot of things, and I think every year we've been coming back, it's definitely been, there's a couple new things that they've been cracking down on, and they've been enforcing a lot more, which has been good to see. And then students felt as if they were generally treated fairly, and we actually got quite a few responses on the phone policy and people saying that they felt that was something good that UHS is doing just to help students pay attention better in class, and it was easier for them. So that was quite a surprise to us. So we were happy to see that. So.
We asked students what were some things that they would change at UHS. Again, many said cleanliness of the bathrooms or cleanliness building-wide. Sophomore Academy, many sophomores this year are very upset with the fact that Sophomore Academy is here. And we, myself included, have explained to sophomores that this is a part of the new curriculum, and we have rolled this out because it has been able and it is eligible for sophomores now. And so many students don't like that they've had to do freshman academy last year, and they thought that, hey, we were going to get a full lunch period, kind of a full time to talk to our friends and everyone that we may or may not see in our classes. But then to come fresh in the sophomore year and see, hey, we have academy again, and everybody's kind of worked up about it, and it's definitely not been a good reaction from these sophomores. A lot of juniors and seniors have been saying that the re-entry for lunch has been terrible. I know that sometimes when I'm down there, the lines are really terrible, and it kind of spills into the times of passing period, which we know that passing period is 4 minutes. But getting everybody through the door is kind of a struggle. So everyone may not be getting into the door, within the time that they have. And so it's spilling into other time, and it's causing students to be late. So what we have done for this is Mr. Guzman has allowed juniors and seniors to come in 10 minutes early, in which some students have been using that, and it has made the transition coming back into school a lot better. And then again, the more advanced classes for students in the dual language program, many students stress that, with being in the dual language program, they feel like there is a lack of advanced classes, and which has led them to drop because of there not being advanced courses for them, for those who would like it.
So then we talk about the school lunch.
We asked students what are their, opinions. Do they think it's served properly? Is it prepared properly? Many said yes, and some said no. And those will be explained on the next slide.
So as a follow-up, we asked if you answered no, please explain. And so we got multiple responses about food options not being available to different diets, specifically halal diets or gluten-free. And people just not being completely, especially when it comes to allergies, just not being completely sure that those are being properly kept separate from the other foods. So we have talked to the food company, and we have specifically told them about that and about students' concerns about that, and to just make sure, the proper things are being done for that. There were multiple responses about food not being completely cooked at times and miscalculated portion sizes, which I will say sometimes I definitely still am hungry after school lunch. So we have also talked about that to Miss Emily Lane, and we have told her multiple times about specifically things when it comes to like chips or things like that. They tend to be a pretty small portion size, and so they don't always get you full, and especially for our student athletes who go straight to practice, that can be not always the best. And then the food has also run out multiple times 6th hour this year, which we have emailed her about every single time after. I know one week someone didn't order a truck of food, so I believe that was on the 2nd or 3rd week of school. And so that was a big reason why a lot of the food was running out, but it has run out since then multiple times, which we have told her about. And I know multiple of them have been at like the very beginning of the hour, so almost no 6th hour students have gotten lunch. And quite a few 6th hour students stay back. The cafeteria is usually almost completely full, so definitely a lot of students. There's always some option, but it's usually just one option, which isn't always the best. I know a lot of students tend to get pizza, and that has been running out this year. So we have talked to her about that, and we are actively working with them on that to try to figure that
out. We asked students, do they think the food is served undercooked? And many said yes, and some of those responses were showed as well. And I think a couple more slides.
So then we asked, do you see the chefs using poor safety habits, whether that's cross-contamination, touching the food without gloves, scratching and patting their head when they're touching the food? And we had 77% say no and 22% say yes, so also pretty good response to that, and definitely a more positive response. So I would say it's probably not an area to focus on quite as much, but.
And so these are the students, or these are the reasons for the students who said no. Many have experienced expired grab-and-go items, just from it not being checked, and it not being taken out after its expiration date, and so they were still left there, and so students were grabbing them, and they were eating them, and they were finding that it was expired. And so since then, students have been kind of backing away from the grab-and-go items because of the items being expired. And so we have explained that to her as well. The lunch staff, many lunch staff do not switch gloves or wear gloves at all while serving. And so we have talked to her about that, and she stated that all workers are supposed to wear gloves. And she has been cracking down on them a lot for not wearing gloves or not switching gloves. Specifically for foods, specifically for cooked and non-cooked foods, it's important that the workers are not touching the cooked foods and then touching the non-cooked foods. But many students have also asked them to switch gloves, and they have denied kind of their requests to switch gloves because of certain dietary restrictions or things like that. And that's the same thing with touching foods cooked and uncooked with the same gloves. And hair nets. Hair has been found in food as well, just from the staff not wearing hair nets. And so we've also let her know that, this is happening, and she's also been saying that she's been cracking down on that as well. So just kind of being more sanitary and being, just kind of following the procedures as to what we need to do whenever we serve students food.
So as a final question, we asked, are there any other concerns or recommendations? We got multiple responses about a boys volleyball team, so we actually had a meeting with Waller, and we talked to him about making this. There are not currently enough teams in the area to make an official school sport, but we could make a club sport like how we did with flag football, and then eventually, once more teams start doing that, it eventually goes to a school sport. And so there's actually one of the students that we got one of the responses from. We reached out to him, and we asked him if he would be interested in kind of leading this effort, and so he is working with, he's going to meet with Waller soon to set this up, and I believe Ms. Luth is going to be sponsoring it, so that will be happening soon, so that's very exciting. Students would like to see more of a crackdown on fighting, skipping, or vaping in the bathrooms. And also, students mentioned getting stall doors for the boys' locker rooms, and I know with the girls' like locker rooms and bathrooms, we have stall doors, but they tend to be locked a lot of the time. Like the stalls will be locked for whatever reason, or the lock will not work. So usually there's only about 1 or 2 stalls you can use per bathroom. So that can kind of be hard sometimes when students are in them. And then one more thing I wanted to say about the food portion, just like as a student, I did not know that we had gotten a green card since that yellow card we got last year. And so we have been working on sharing that with other students, because I know many other students also did not know that. So I know the school journal will be making an article about that soon. And I know me and many other students I've talked to have seen a vast improvement since last year. And since that yellow card was given, on different safety habits and on the food itself, and the food being, better, and it being us enjoying it a lot more. So I will say I definitely do think there's improvement being done there, and so that's good to see.
Yes. Also piggybacking off of that, now it's really about changing the narrative within students to be like, hey, they have passed the health inspection. They have, been doing what they have been supposed to do. So now we can't keep holding the narrative from February's inspection saying that, we had many violations on some of the similar stuff that we had did previously in, I believe it was December. So now just changing the narrative is really the most important thing now. And also students, also some responses of halal food. We have been working with her, with Emily, who is the quest manager, to try to be a certified halal kitchen, which could take some time. But we have been talking with her because some students have been saying, hey, they would like halal food, or, specifically for people who are on the restrictive diets, just making sure that they can eat as well. And they don't have to eat, things that's, really not helping them or really not filling them up as much as the other things that we serve inside of the lunchroom. Moving on to student activities. These past couple weeks, we have had lots of student activities. So homecoming was just a few weeks ago. So there was some pictures from the homecoming football game, from the pep rally, from the float building that we had for the homecoming parade, and then a picture from Spirit Day, from our twin day, when people in their school spirit. And these are some more homecoming pictures and homecoming pep rallies and other things like that.
So and then we had some sport updates. So the volleyball freshman, JV, and varsity team all won their games against Danville. Very exciting. Soccer won their game against Danville as well. And football had their game against Centennial last Friday. Many students went to that. It was a very highly attended event. And the cross country boys also won their uni high meet. So very successful fall sport teams right now.
And the senior nights, I think we've had so far 2 senior nights with the girls volleyball and the boys soccer. They both did win their senior night game, so that is a plus. And here are some pictures from them from their senior nights.
So me and Sophia are currently working on the English curriculum and the ACT prep. So she is working on making more ACT prep things available. And so she is emailing the junior English teachers right now to learn more about what the ACT preparation is and what's being done in the classrooms, what's being offered outside of the classrooms. And so she is going to talk with them about that and probably try to add some more. And then I will actually be meeting tomorrow with the English department co-heads to talk about increasing the rigor in English classes. I'll specifically be talking about the number of essays and increasing that. I will go into that more in a later meeting with after I talk with them, but generally our literacy rate in graduates is not always the best, and so I would like to try to increase that, and writing is a life skill that every person will need to use no matter what path of life they go down. So I believe that's something that should be more emphasized, and it can only be done by practice, and so it needs to be practiced more in the classroom. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
And
Really,
any
really
questions,
appreciate.
let us know. Any comments?
No, the survey results were really interesting. Thank you for doing that.
Of course.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to thank you for all the work that you did. I just think that that information is so valuable. And I was wondering if this is something that you can repeat next semester to see if you can get other students' reactions, or also see if there's any change in some of these concerns as well.
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes, we did plan to send out another form after we come back from Christmas
Mhm.
break. So now that we have been advocating for some of the stuff that's been put on the forms, we are going to give it time
Mhm.
and then see how it works out and see if things
Okay.
have gotten better since then. And then come the springtime, we will send out another survey to everybody, kind of as like a reflection and just to see, what has improved and what hasn't
That'd
improved.
be very helpful. Thank you.
Of course.
We also had a conversation, you and I, today in the lunchroom regarding students' responsibility of keeping the building clean. And I'm in the lunchroom 2 days a month, and whoever the staff are always asking students to clean their table and put things away, throw away their garbage, and it's I can imagine be very disappointing and frustrating if you come in wanting to eat your lunch and there's still other people's garbage on lunch. So I'm hoping that maybe sometimes you could think about how to improve that as well with the students as well. Coming from the students, it might be better than just from the staff.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Of course.
I was wondering, when the students were talking about food that was undercooked, were they talking about really undercooked meat, or are things not hot to eat? Are they just not warm?
They're talking about they're talking about food that's not being cooked correctly, food that's not being cooked all the way through.
Okay.
So specifically, I know a student had said something to me about the ground beef, specifically for the tacos, that was not cooked through all the way, and there was still lots of the meat that was very pink, and so I had took a picture of that, and I had mentioned that to Mr. Guzman. But yes, meat is not being cooked, all the way through for the undercooked portion.
Okay.
I will say also, I think part of it is, I know many students see in like the chicken nuggets or chicken tenders, the middle tends to be kind of gray. And so that is where I do think all of this needs to be taken with a grain of salt of, no one is taking the temperature of the middle of the meat and making sure it's fully cooked. Like it's not an exact. But I think that is where we would like to talk more with Emily Lane and see if that is maybe just the products that are being used, if that's just how they are, if it is safe to eat, but it's just if that's how it's prepared, that's how it looks. So that's also something we'd like to go more into and we'd need to talk more with Quest about to directly see.
Can I add one thing? So right now, you guys are in the middle of your Panorama student survey, and that survey will have a lot of data about sense of belonging, feeling supported in school. So I know your sample group was a little smaller, but every student is taking the Panorama survey. So when we get those results, I would love for you guys to sit down with Mr. Guzman and kind of look at some of the questions you had and see where the full student body is kind of aligning in terms of, do I have adults that I trust? Do I have people I can go to and talk to? Belonging is one of our major values, so it's really important to us that students feel supported and valued. So looking at that Panorama data when we get it will be really good. And I'm sure he'll appreciate your insights on the bigger scope of that data once we get it all, so.
Yeah, we will for sure reach out to him and make sure to have a meeting about that.
Thank you. Anyone else with questions, comments? All right, yeah, thanks so much. It's time for board reports. Anybody have a board report this evening? Go ahead, Sherry.
The IASB webinar is on Thursday, October 16th, and I signed up for it. It's at 12 o'clock, about the new standards for student proficiency, what board members should know. I think it pertains to cuts and scores and the changes that are coming out that will impact the 2025 state report card. So I'm looking forward to getting some more information so I can understand the report card better this year. Another thing regarding the Tiger Market, I know I talk about that a lot, but it impacts a lot of families. I hope it can help them. I was in the lunchroom today, and students have the opportunity to select food and personal care items for their home. And we'll be in the lunchroom 2 Tuesdays a month, usually the same days as school board meetings. We received a 66% increase from East Illinois Food Bank to use this year to purchase items from the food bank, so I'm really thrilled about that. So we will have more available for students for a long amount of time this year. And it shows the various items that are available. And there's a Facebook page, Tiger Market, and it shows the items that are available and also has lists of certain foods that people in the community can donate to the pantry. And the most requested food item is apple juice. Students like apple juice.
Moving on to our study topics for the evening. First up is McKinney-Vento Services and Supports, Dr. Nance and Deanne Webster.
Good evening. So I'll kick off the presentation tonight with just some recent homeless trends. So between July and September of 2025, so this school year, about a 3-month period, there have been upwards of 91 McKinney-Vento common forms filled out, submitted to the Regional Office of Education 9, and entered into the Skyward system. So this indicates a current 2.1% homeless student population within our school district. At the end of the school year 24-25, the homeless student population was at 2.8. Keep in mind that that was at the end of the school year. So at the end of 24-25, we were at 2.8. We're currently in the SY 25-26 school year at 2.1. Schools with the highest amount of reported homeless students are Thomas Paine Elementary School, Urbana Middle School, and Urbana High School. Common causes of this. So most of the time when I have conversations with a family or Ms. Webster or one of the social workers at the schools, some of the common causes that come up are inability to afford monthly rent payment due to loss of employment, credit reports and rental history reflecting major delinquency or eviction. So one thing that I want to note there is that I often explain to families, if you can avoid an eviction through communication or setting up a payment plan, you'll want to, because an eviction, unfortunately, stays on your record for up to 10 years, making it very hard to rent anywhere else in the area. Natural disasters such as house fires, water damage, mold, pest infestation, etc. A decrease in local private landlords willing to rent to previously evicted tenants. So used to be that there were more private landlords that would work with people that have been evicted, and that number is decreasing. So some common residential circumstances that we come up against, or that we see often: families being doubled up, living with other relatives or friends temporarily, whether they're in Urbana, in Champaign, in Rantoul, sometimes out as far as Danville, staying in a domestic violence or a homeless shelter, and then sleeping in cars. So these are some of the district's resources to meet student and family needs. So for housing, referrals are made to the following shelters or providers: Cunningham Township, Regional Planning Commission, Housing Authority of Champaign County, Salvation Army, Courage Connection, and Empty Tomb. For food, we provide a list of 39 local soup kitchens and little free food pantries, as well as information on how to access the Tiger Market. And then clothes, shoes, school supplies, and personal use items can be gathered from Mrs. Mitchell's Closet. There are now 7 locations in Urbana. Dr. J's Homeless Help Hub, which is something new this year. And then the Unaccompanied Minors Closet, which is over at UHS. The Wilcox Red Shoe Funds, these are accessible to school social workers. And then referrals to the 12 discount stores and giveaway hubs in Champaign-Urbana. So there's information that has been made available to staff as well as parents, so the adults that support the students. The USD 116 Family Engagement Community Resource Guide, which is a guide that Mrs. Webster and I believe Kelly Allen and some others have put together every year. It's a great guide and encompasses a lot of information on resources in the community. The USD 116 Support Staff Guide, which is a guide that I created a few years ago that also in a way mirrors this, but gives a little bit more information about specific services to provide to families. USD 116 Family Liaison Manual, so obviously specific information and scheduling information for liaisons. USD 116 Family Resources Guide, which is another guide that is specifically for the parent. So this is something that a social worker, a family liaison, and a student engagement attendance advocate can share with the parent, and the parent can utilize. And then the Cunningham Township Bridge to Home Services Guide. Brittany Tootin, who is our liaison, recently created a really nice guide. It has a lot of visuals in it that we've also been able to share with families. So the relationship between Urbana School District 116 and the Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office. Our current homeless liaison, whom I just mentioned, is Ms. Brittany Tootin. She is the Housing Navigation and Supportive Services Team Lead. So these are the steps for getting support. A student's family would indicate homelessness. So this is often done at registration or in a conversation with a social worker or secretary. The USD 116 referrals will then go to the Cunningham Township office through a Google form. Once that Google form is completed, it's submitted to Ms. Tootin at Cunningham Township. A caseworker is then assigned to the family to complete the assessment and intake. Qualifying families receive referrals for emergency sheltering at that point. And at times, follow-up emails and or phone calls are made between the school district and the township just regarding the family's progress. So this can work either way. Sometimes Ms. Tootin will reach out to us and say, hey, just letting you know this is the progress, this is where we are with this family. Or I'll reach back out and say, hey, any news on assistance for this family? So there are these homeless student service meetings that take place once a quarter and once over the summer as well in preparation for the upcoming school year. So these include representatives from Urbana School District 116, Champaign Unit 4 School District, Rantoul City School District 137, Cunningham Township Supervisor's Office, the Champaign Township, CU Schools Foundation, United Way of Champaign County, Crisis Nursery, Regional Office of Education 9, and the Regional Planning Commission of Champaign County. So action items that come out of these meetings or have come out of these meetings. So we've sent out some letters to philanthropic organizations just asking for their support for our families that are homeless in various forms. So that at times has been asking for funds for hotel stays. It has been asking for donation of items for families that are in need. So some of these organizations are listed there: Altrusa International, Urbana Rotary, Divine Nine organizations, Kiwanis, and Junior League, to name a few. We've also submitted some grant applications to the City of Urbana for their Community Services Grant, as well as the Illinois Charitable Trust Fund. So some of the outcomes, regional planning now covers travel costs for families staying in partner shelters outside of Champaign County. So this is often a recommendation that we would make when our current Champaign-Urbana shelters are full. And then over $5,000 was donated last year between Regional Office of Education 9 and United Way of Champaign County donors. And lastly, this year, $1,000 was secured through the CU Connections Fund, $500 to purchase items for the new Homeless Help Hub, and $500 to cover hotel stays for Urbana families during the freezing temperature days. And I believe that is the conclusion of the presentation. So I'll take, sorry, usually I include a thank you slide. So thank you. Do you have any questions?
Board members, any questions?
Thank you very much. That's very informative. Where can I get copies of those guides or manuals? Because they sound very interesting.
Sure, I can email them to you. Usually when I do this presentation with teachers, they're linked in the presentation. So I could send you those.
Great, I'd like to see them, all the work that you've done.
And Miss Lori has them too.
Okay, great. Let's see, I want to congratulate you too, because I noticed that you're getting some awards and recognition for your work in the community, so I
Thank
want
you.
to tell you how wonderful that is that you're getting. Last year I was concerned about unaccompanied minors, and this year my focus is possibly parents who are not able to go to work because of fear of going to work and the safety, and I was wondering if there's some type of safety net for them. I know that many of them would not qualify for some of these supports. Are there any that they do qualify for?
Well, all of our unaccompanied minors do qualify for McKinney-Vento services, so they get the same services that our homeless families get, and we do work closely with Ms. Lucia Maldonado, with Joey Meld and Lupe Guadalupe Ricconi. So we just spoke about that this morning, actually, in our monthly family liaison meeting, and Lucia wanted to make sure that we share that information with our student engagement attendance advocates to make sure that when we see a downward spiral of attendance with some of our students, to be aware and to be mindful and to be sympathetic of situations that may be going on in the political climate. So we are working closely together to ensure that everyone has the information, but our unaccompanied minors do get the same services and support as McKinney-Vento.
Right, and that was my concern last year. This year it's for the families, the parents who possibly are not going to work because they're afraid.
Right.
And are they also have some of these supports as well?
The supports are for the students, so our McKinney-Vento supports are to make sure that the students get to school. So we can't, the money that we have, this Title I funding, it is for students, so the main thing is to get students to school. So unfortunately, that cannot support families, but it can support the students, making sure they have clothing, making sure they have school supplies, making sure that they have food, laundry detergent. We've even purchased laundry machines and all kinds of things in all of our different buildings, but the funds that we have cannot support the families, unfortunately.
So nothing for homelessness then for them?
Not for the adults, but for
Right.
the children.
Anyone else? I asked this question as to different groups, but if money's tight, but if you had the ability to ask us for things that we haven't been doing, now's the time. What can we do? What more can we do that we aren't doing?
Sure, and thank you for that question. So we have an Amazon wish list And I can give you that information. I think I gave it to the board last year. I'll
Yeah.
give it to you again. But it's just, and I'm going to say this because this is recorded, correct?
Okay.
So for those in the community, tinyurl.com / Mrs. Mitchell's Closet 3. So it is a tiny URL that I created for our Amazon wish list, but you just go on and it has all of the items pictured and listed there that we're in high need of to support our kids. And I can tell you right now, the biggest needs are children's underwear, sizes 6 to 10, off the top of my head, right, because I do this all the time. Deodorant is another one that I keep being asked about as I'm going to different schools. We need more deodorant and laundry detergent now that we do have these washing machines and dryers. So children's underwear, the laundry detergent, and the I have a short memory. What was it? Thank you. And the and hotel stays as well. So
Yeah.
that's another thing I would say. So we have very limited funding. We do have some funding that has been secured for that, but very limited. And so anybody who wants to donate toward us being able to help get a family into a hotel, especially as we're getting into colder months, so that that child can get a good night's rest and come to school, that would be helpful too.
It's
Yeah.
Dr. J's. Dr. J's.
Homeless Help Hub.
Yeah, where is that?
It's at Urbana Middle School. It's located in room 1881, so it's right outside of the multi-purpose room.
Do they carry different things than Mrs. Mitchell's Closet, or?
So it, in a sense, is almost the same, but here's the difference. So the Dr. J's Homeless Help Hub is specifically for McKinney-Vento homeless students because of, and I think Ms. Webster mentioned this too, just because of the funding and where it came from, it specifically has to go to homeless students. Mrs. Mitchell's Closet is an initiative I started a few years ago, and that is more open to any kid. You know, a book bag strap breaks in the middle of the day, you got chocolate milk spilled on you, whatever the case may be. And so that's more open-ended, and it's, you know, anybody can go in and get things from those locations.
There was an incident in the lunchroom today where a young man came up to me. He said, I tried to get ketchup and it just splattered all over me. What should I do? I said, go upstairs in the office and see if you can get access to Mrs. Mitchell's closet. So I'm hoping that you'll have clothes for those kind of accidents as well.
Yeah, I do. They're in all the closets. Thank you.
I was going to add something about hotel stays, and I haven't even had a chance to share this with Dr. Nance or Mrs. Webster. I was in a meeting recently with members from Champaign County talking about the Stride Center and the concern around the fact that that grant is ending at the end of February. And I know the concern is really this is a Champaign County issue, not an Urbana, not a Champaign. I mean, the center happens to be located in Champaign. And so I think the city of Champaign has bared the brunt over the last few years. I think the city manager said they've spent $7 million or some of their own funding through ARPA and, you know, the money that they've received through COVID. And there is a concern that what are we going to do if the end of February is still cold. So, you know, that is going to be a concern. I know a lot of our families use some of the other shelters that are a little closer to Urbana. But that is something that is a countywide conversation happening right now around the fact that none of us have grants that pay for hotels like they used to. And it is a concern of, you know, where do we where do we send families that, especially when, you know, there's some centers that don't take moms and dads, they only take the moms and the kids. And, you know, just what are we going to do as a county? And so I think this group is starting to have conversations around county support. And we were all kind of put on notice that everybody is going to have to weigh in and provide some financial support. And it can't just be the city of Champaign doing it all. And I think we hear that. So, there are people like public health at the table. Both the city of Urbana, our mayor has a representative that's there, and so it is an issue that is an issue countywide. So, is housing.
Board members, Masters, any further questions? Thank you very much for this presentation. Our next report is the curriculum and student learning presentation. Jessica Bradford.
Good evening. So tonight I'm here to present to you information about curriculum. When Dr. Avery Tatum asked me to present to the board about curriculum, I was a little perplexed. I was like, what do I present to the board about curriculum? Because it's K through 12, and curriculum is it's a lot of information to present to the board. And so it came down to our strategic plan. So how does it always connect back to our strategic plan and student growth and achievement? So I have decided to present to you how our focus on curriculum is how we're supporting student growth and achievement through our strategic plan. So our first goal is all students will grow and excel to reach their full potential, achieving success in college, career, life, and beyond. And our key performance indicators for this goal is focusing around the percentage of students meeting IAR and ELA for reading and math. And so those are percentages for certain populations of students. So that's what I decided to focus on because we have been really focusing on ELA and math. That's been our target for curriculum. And so I'm here tonight to talk to you about what we've been doing to help meet these goals for ELA and math across the district. So what are we doing to reach these goals? And the big thing that we've been focusing on is Tier 1 instruction. So that's where it starts. And so we've really been focusing on our Tier 1 instruction in ELA and math. And so that's what we're going to talk about right now. And so let's talk about that, what it looks like at the elementary. So as you know, we are in year 2 implementation of CKLA and our Caminos curriculum. And so our teachers across K through 5 now have a curriculum that focuses on teaching reading, and it has a scope and sequence. So I put in here like our curriculum map. I can't click on it, but we have put together, this is something that we worked on over the summer. So we worked on this for K through 5. And this is for teachers. So it's their curriculum map, and it's also their pacing guide. And so this includes their reading, their math, their science, and social studies. And so that way teachers stay on pace to teach what they're supposed to teach across the school year. And that way teachers stay together across grade levels. So we put this together, which has been helpful. And we've also identified like the main assessments that grade levels are supposed to give across each quarter. So we put together the curriculum map for our ELA and math. And so with our year 2 of this new curriculum, because it's still new, we went ahead and decided to move forward of keeping our CKLA coach, Becca Pate. So she works across 4 of our buildings that implement CKLA. So her focus for first quarter has really been going into Leal, Thomas Paine, DBW, and King, supporting our new teachers and our long-term subs. So she'll meet with them to plan with them, she'll model lessons with them, she'll co-teach with them, she'll observe and give feedback. So we call it like a coaching cycle. So that is how she's been supporting buildings first quarter, just making sure that our new teachers and our long-term subs are just set up for success with teaching this program. And then she also pushes into our PLCs and meets with teachers as well. So we're in year 2 of our CKLA coach. We're also in year 2 of having our Tier 1 intensive teachers. And what our Tier 1 intensive teachers do is that they co-teach, specifically with CKLA. Last year, across buildings, we wanted to make sure that like all teachers had a Tier 1 intensive teacher co-teaching with them, but because it was new curriculum. But this year, we were very specific about how we used our Tier 1 intensive teachers. So especially having them co-teach our skills, which is our phonics, because we thought it was really important to push in during that phonics, that skills time in K1-2. So we've really shifted our Tier 1 intensive teachers to support K1-2 teachers with skills for co-teaching, and also our new teachers and long-term subs. And then our M-class data just came out. And so also looking at our M-class data to see where the support is really needed across the classrooms, and then having them support those classrooms there with co-teaching, but also during our when time, we call it what I need time, like our intervention time, and pushing in during that time as well. And so another year 2 implementation is our curriculum implementation teachers that we have in all 5 of our elementary buildings. So our curriculum implementation teachers do a lot of things. They also co-teach where the support is needed. They model specific lessons for teachers. They gather data. They help with assessments. They run PLCs. Really wherever they help get curriculum organized. So wherever help is needed, they're there to help teachers, really in any aspect. So it's nice to have our curriculum implementation teachers for year 2. We have provided a lot of professional development to our teachers because we want to make sure that with this new curriculum that they're implementing it with fidelity to support student learning. So last year during our staff development days, that's all we focused on was professional development with CKLA. So we provided professional development on like how to engage all learners, how to incorporate writing, enhancing our teaching practice, how to implement our Boost, which is like our online reading program that supports individual learning. M-class data, I'm getting ready to talk about that. We had professional development this summer for backwards planning. So we continue to provide that professional development to teachers for ELA to support that curriculum, that Tier 1 instruction. So, and then for math, I didn't put math up here, but we are in our year 3 of our illustrative math curriculum. And last year we didn't really focus on illustrative math with our teachers, like professional development, because we wanted to focus on CKLA. But we are back to the grind of really focusing on that Tier 1 instruction for illustrative math at the elementary level because we see with our scores that it's needed. So this summer we provided some professional development to our teachers about establishing routines, how to look at formative assessments, and using the learning goals to inform instruction. And then we trained all of our new teachers this summer with illustrative math. Our upcoming staff development in November. We're giving training on illustrative math, specifically focusing on building that number sense, which our students need. We've identified that our students need to really increase their number sense. So we're doing extra professional development on like the centers that are in illustrative math. I'm training the long-term subs coming up here in October when we return from fall break. Yeah, so I mean, just a lot, just making sure our teachers get professional development just around the curriculum to make sure that, you know, they're teaching it the way that it's intended so that students are learning the standards. So we've also revamped our report cards. We did that a lot of work last year. We had a committee across K through 5 teachers, and so we looked at the priority standards for ELA and math, and we revamped our report cards. And so now we have new report cards that we're rolling out for this year. So we've been working on that. And then with our CKLA curriculum, we have something new that's called M-Class assessments. It's fantastic. We give these M-Class assessments fall, winter, and spring across K through 5. They measure specific reading skills, and the data that it gives our teachers is absolutely incredible. It gives individual data, class data, and it tells teachers, it groups students for the teachers, and it tells them specifically like what targeted instruction to give them. And it also gives them the interventions, specific interventions to give them, like with lessons. It's fantastic. And that was a big piece that our teachers were missing. And so this program gives that to our teachers. And so that is amazing for our teachers, but also for our students. And it's research-based, so it's just amazing. I put this in here because I wanted you to see the impact of just 1 year of CKLA. John, I don't know if you're driving. If you can click on the M-Class data. And then if you can click on the 24 to 25 to 25 to 26 beginning of the year. Okay, so it's really hard for me to see. Okay, thank you. So so this is comparing data from the beginning of the year from last year to this year. And so at the very top where it says composite score, this is overall for all students across K through 5. This is all buildings at the elementary level. And so these are students in the red are well below, students in the yellow are below, students in the green are on target, and then students in the blue are like well above. And so if you look at this year's data to last year's data, you can see that we've decreased the number of students that are well below, and then we've increased the number of students who are below, on target, and above target. So in just a year, we've increased those numbers and decreased the numbers where we need to. And then stay with me because this is going to be hard to see. But if you look at our kindergarten numbers from 24-25 and compare it to first grade 25-26, you can see that our kindergartners who are now first graders this year, the students who are well below, we went from 54% of students who were well below in kindergarten to 51%. So we are decreasing that number, which is what we want to see. And then we are increasing the number of students who are on grade level and above grade level. So we did see that increase from K to 1. And then if we look at our 24-25 numbers for first grade and compare it to second grade to the 25-26, we can also see the same. So our first graders from last year, who are now second graders, they went from 60% well below to 46. That's a huge, that's what we want to see, right? We want to see that decrease. And then all of our numbers increased for students who are on target and above target. So that increased. If John scrolls down, thank you, John. If we look at our second graders from last year who are now third graders, they went from 56% to 51% who are well below. And then kind of just stayed the same across the board. And then our third graders from last year, who are now fourth graders, that was another huge decrease. From well below, we went from 50% to 39%. And then we had a huge jump on numbers who were on grade level. We went from 15% to 31%. That's huge. That's like double. And then where we noticed that we needed to do a lot more work was from our fourth grade to our fifth grade. We had 44% of our fourth graders last year who are now fifth graders. It actually increased. That was the only grade level that increased and went from 44 to 46 from well below. And then the below stayed the same. And then on grade level decreased, and then above grade level went up 2%. So we're trying to figure out why that fourth to fifth grade was the grade level that didn't have the results that we wanted. And so we're looking at targeting some specific instruction at fourth grade, more on fluency and like what we can do for that comprehension. So, but otherwise we were really glad to see those scores. So what we're doing is working, and we're seeing improvements. So I wanted to share that with you. So. We'll click out of that. All right. How do I go back? Just need to go back a slide. Yeah, so that's what we've been really working on with elementary, is just really focusing on our tier 1 instruction for reading and math. And then for secondary, for tier 1 instruction, man, we've been doing a lot of work as well. For ELA, we decided at the same time to get a new curriculum as well. So we are in year 2 of into literature curriculum with our secondary teachers. And again, we have been doing extensive coaching with our ELA teachers. We brought coaching back this year, and man, is it powerful. We just had coaching yesterday and today with our Interlit coaches who've worked with our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers. Yesterday with our 7th and 8th grade teachers, we looked at their first unit assessment test that they took, and they take it online, and so it'll tell you what standards that students were really strong in, and then what standards students were weak in. And then it gives you information of like what to do with the data. And man, it was so powerful doing that data dive with our teachers. And teachers were talking like students are getting they were so much better than last year. And they saw a huge difference just with year 1 implementation. And there was some really strong data across classes where for each test questions, like across the classes, like 70% of students got these questions right. And these questions are hard. They model, this is what I love about the curriculum, they model the test questions that students see on IAR, which is fantastic. So the more exposure that students have to these types of questions, the better they're going to do on IAR, which is what we want, right? And it's rigorous. And so we went and looked to see like what questions the students do well on, why did they do well on them, and then what questions did the students struggle on, like why do we think they struggled on it, and then where are these standards that they struggled on, where were they taught again, like, or where do we need to build it in more, and then they went back and retaught this week. They're reteaching some of the standards, and they're showing the test questions that a lot of the students struggled on, and they're seeing like why did the students choose this answer, and then they're modeling like why this is the correct answer. It's just so powerful that the coaches are doing this with our teachers. And then today our coaches went in and observed our teachers and then gave them feedback, and then they modeled backwards planning. It's just really good stuff. And so I'm really excited to see like how this impacts our students and our student learning. It's really powerful. So I'm really excited about our coaches with our ELA teachers. So continuing to provide that professional development for our teachers so they can be strong with implementing that curriculum. We also have curriculum implementation teachers at the 6th grade center and the middle school. And so they do the same thing. They meet with teachers to help plan, co-teach, model, observe, and give feedback. And so just to help implement the curriculum with fidelity. So it's nice to have that at the 6th grade center in the middle school for ELA. But like I said, those rigorous common assessments we've been really working on that mirror the MAP and IAR. I'm telling you, we're going to see our scores just skyrocket because we're seeing some really, even with our first unit assessment, we saw some really good scores. So we're really excited. So with math, we're in year 3, again, with illustrative math. Continuous providing professional development. We provided a lot of professional development this summer around IM, and we brought back coaching this year. So we have 4 coaching sessions with our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade teachers around like specific topics. So they meet with teachers during the day, and we just had one about practicing and rehearsing routines, and it was so powerful for the teachers to be able to meet together to learn how to connect the objective with the activity, and how to look at like scaffolding, and then connect an assessment to it. It was just really good professional learning communities. And so to be able to provide that for our teachers for that tier 1 instruction, I'm glad we're able to bring that back the school year because we haven't because of sub shortage, but we're able to bring that back the school year. So I'm really excited about that. We also have our curriculum implementation teachers for math, but we're currently looking for one. We don't have one at the 6th grade center or the middle school. So we do need a curriculum implementation teacher for anybody listening out there who's looking for a job. We do need a CIT for the middle school and 6th grade center. And then also, we offer advanced courses for 7th and 8th grade for math, which helps. I'm looking into why we don't offer it for 6th grade. So I'm looking at data. I'm pulling data, map data for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders to see, because we look at students who score in the 61st percentile to the 80th percentile on MAP consistently to go into those advanced courses. So I'm going to see if we have enough students to start an advanced course for 6th grade. So I'm also looking into that. So yeah, so that's tier 1 instruction at the secondary level. So a lot of work being done. And then, I'm sorry, I know it's so long, but there's just so much work we're doing with curriculum, and it's so much needed for our students. So the biggest piece next that we're working on is really been at the 6th grade center in the middle school around tier 2 instruction, because in our tier 1 classes, we don't teach students how to read. And we have so many students, unfortunately, at the middle school level that still need that phonics instruction. And we still need to close that gap. And so we know we have that need. So we're doing it through tier 2 instruction through a program called Read 180. I don't know if I've talked to you before. I think I've talked to you before about Read 180. This is our 2nd year of implementation, and man, it is so powerful. And so we identify students through our map and also through teacher recommendations for students that go into tier 2 instruction for Read 180, but students, it's everyday instruction. And it just provides, so the students spend like the first 20 minutes getting instruction from the teacher on exactly what they need, and then they go onto the Read 180 app, and that it's personalized path for the students that work on like phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension for 20 minutes. So they do that like rotation like every day. And what's great about that is that the teachers and the students can look at the data to support the students, like maybe they're stuck on this specific skill. So this is our second year of implementation. We also bring in a coach to help support our teachers, just to make sure that the program's running the way it's intended to help them look at the data, to support next steps. So we're really excited to provide that for our students. So that's a big thing that we've been working on at the middle school level. And then something new this year, so math is just as important. And so we brought in Math 180. This year, it's our first year of implementation. So there's not a lot of math interventions out there. I don't know if you realize that. There's tons of reading interventions, but there's not a lot of math, like research-based interventions. And so we found Math 180. It's pretty new. It's fairly new, but it's like a lot like Read 180. And since we had such huge success with Read 180 last year, we decided to try Math 180 with our 7th and 8th graders this year. And so this is our first year of implementation. It works a lot like Read 180. It's targeted for students struggling with foundational skills in math, with significant learning gaps, needing extra help to become algebra ready. So we screen through MAP. They have to like meet a certain score, and then whatever their score is, they go into a certain skill, whether if it's addition and subtraction, multiplication and division. Then it goes into fractions, and then ratios and proportions, decimals and integers, and then it keeps going. So it places students where they need to go. And so it works just like Read 180. The teacher works with those students specifically giving a lesson for 20 minutes, and then the students go on the app for 20 minutes. That's individualized to what they need. And so, yeah, it's data-driven. It's progress monitored. Teachers, after the 5th lesson, they give like a quick check. And then based off that quick check, it kind of guides the teachers of what to do next with the students. There's games for the students. There's like rewards if students pass a certain level, based off of like, if they have to like do a lot of learning videos, and then they have to take an assessment. And so students are tracking how they're doing, they're tracking their data, so setting goals. So we're really excited to bring this and to see how it helps close the gap for our students. So we've been working on that this year too. So, and then besides all of that work, we've been working on at the high school. I've been this year really focusing on working with the math teachers. They've been working on this for a while, but I'm coming on board with them on building thinking classrooms. I don't know if you've heard of that. We just had like 4 of the math teachers present at the Illinois National Math Conference in Bloomington on building thinking classrooms. And so I'm working with them on how to kind of take it to the next level at the high school, working on science and social studies alignment at the elementary level. As you know, we purchased new social studies curriculum, so we're seeing how that's being implemented and how that's going. We're doing a science pilot, so that's like my next step is, I don't think the science curriculum for the middle school has been updated since 2003. So that's my next step. So we're running a pilot right now. So I check in with them tomorrow for our first check-in. So that's another thing that we're working on is a science pilot. So just a lot of work. So yeah, so that's my presentation. So thank you for
Thank you.
listening. Yeah, questions?
Yeah, board members, any questions? Go ahead, Jennifer.
Our student ambassadors just this evening talked about meeting with English teachers to have more rigor
Yep.
in the English classes. And I was wondering, with this, are students being encouraged to read novels? Are they, writing a lot? And I understand that we have many students who need the instruction, with phonics and stuff like that. But what about our other students?
Yeah, so that's, I just met with the English department chairs and the administrators about 2 weeks ago, because they came to us about your concerns. And so this is what we've been telling teachers. They need to teach with high expectations and they need to teach with rigor. And this curriculum that we have does that. So teachers need to teach here and not here. And when they teach here, they need to learn how to scaffold and provide differentiation. And so we're working with the ELA teachers at the high school on how to do that. So we're bringing in coaches on backwards planning and more so with writing because we know that it needs to be more rigorous and it needs to be set here instead of here. So we hear you, yes. But with our new IntelliT curriculum, they're only using certain pieces of it at the high school and they need to be using the whole curriculum. So we hear you.
Another question, where you talk, this last slide about alignment of CKLA for science. I know the district used to have a science curriculum that was aligned that went all the way up through middle school and high school. So now I know that CKLA uses science as some of its reading material. Are we going back on having I don't want to say it that way, on having a science curriculum? Are we trying to fit science curriculum into what CKLA thinks is important, and therefore then will it be aligned with the upper grades?
Yeah. So what we did is we also had a science, we had 2 years. So we had a science and social studies elementary curriculum committee, and it took 2 years. And so what we did was we looked at the next generation science standards for elementary, and we looked at all of the topics covered in CKLA, and CKLA has a great alignment chart for each grade level of how CKLA has the next generation science embedded into it. And so we did like a crosswalk and we looked to see where these standards were taught at in CKLA. And then, so that was our first step. And then our second step was to see like which standards are left out or do we feel like we need to support more. And so we use mystery science because number one, it's our students love mystery science, and it's cheaper because we don't have really a science curriculum like a science textbook, so we use mystery science, and it actually aligns really well to the next generation science standards. So then we looked at the gaps of what was missing from CKLA, and we fill it in with mystery science. So in my PowerPoint across the K through 5 curriculum map, if you click on that for each grade level, there's a science tab. If you click on that, you can see the next generation standard science and where it aligns at with CKLA, and then where we had to add in mystery science, like to fill in the gaps.
So are kids being exposed to real hands-on science then? Is that what mystery science
Oh,
is?
yeah.
Okay.
But especially through CKLA with the science topics. Like first grade with the human body goes extensively like into like the body systems. Social studies like with the planet systems. I mean, it goes extensively into these standards. Yeah. But like I said, if we felt like one standard wasn't heavily taught by CKLA, then that's where we added in the mystery science. Yeah.
And one more question. You talked about the assessments that are a part of the package with these curricula. And so we're giving those assessments plus the IAR, plus the MAP,
Yeah.
plus the state testing. How much time are kids spending on testing now?
So for MAP, they do math and reading. So that's fall, winter, and spring. So that's 6 tests overall. And then IAR, they take in April. So they have to take math and ELA. So I think it's like 3 tests for reading, 3 tests for math, if I remember. And then the unit assessments, There's one unit assessment when the unit is finished. So there's like 12 units. So, yeah.
So I think and to add to what Jesse just said, is each assessment has a different purpose. So MAP is our benchmark assessment. That's how we show growth from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. The M class is our data-driven. That's where our teachers are pulling out their instructional strategies and things that they need to be working on and focusing on in the classroom. And then IER is that nationally normed test that we have to take for the state. We don't get a lot of teaching points from it. It doesn't drive our curriculum. It is a very, state assigned. We all have to take this. Before it used to be ISAT, and before that it was something else.
Yeah.
But our teaching and learning and our instructional strategies and what's driving our curriculum is the MAP and M class and things like that. That's where our teachers are pulling those, the things that they need to help drive their instruction.
It is a lot of,
It
I'm
is
gonna
a
tell
lot
you,
of
it is a lot of testing, especially like with the M class and the MAP at the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year. It is a lot for our students. Yeah. But we tell our teachers, like, you better be sharing this data with the students, right? And their families, like, make it meaningful for them. And it gives us really meaningful data. So we're not just assessing students to just give them to check it off the list. It gives us really meaningful data. Yeah. But it is a lot. It's a lot of assessments. Yeah.
You reminded me of another question. I'm sorry. You said about the M class data, and you were using it, and then you were using it, and then the teachers could use that, and they received sort of lessons for kids for grouping kids. And then are the children placed in reading groups that a teacher is leading, or then are they placed in groups that they're working on the computer to get that extra help?
It just depends, but those students who are behind in reading skills, they get instruction from a teacher. It just depends on like who's available and how many groups, but those students who are behind in skills, we want instruction from a teacher, not a computer. But those students who are on or above, we are trying, like a lot of schools, are doing novel studies instead of like trying to put them on a computer. But we do have like Exact Path, we do have Boost, that is aligned to individual learning paths for students that are based off of like M-class or MAP scores. So we do have that as an option. But we've been doing a lot of like pushing like novel studies or writing activities for like those students who are on or above level instead of like putting them on a computer.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Luke.
I'm imagining these assessments are some type of adaptive test. Do they give you any data on students that disengage during the assessment? So the kids that are below whatever standard, is there a percentage that you know of that are just filling out answers and not, doing any analysis of the question?
It tells you how much time a student spent on the assessment. So is that what you're at? So like we can see that a student took this assessment in like 7 minutes. So we could tell like they didn't take their time on the assessment. So is that what you're asking?
That's one measure, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what percentage of students fall below the standard time or average time that it would take?
I'm trying to think of like when I was looking at the data yesterday for our 7th and 8th grade students. The students that fell below, they took more than half the class time. Like there wasn't any students that like didn't like take, but they're hard tests and it was their first one. So, but it's hard too because we don't read the tests to students because we're testing comprehension. So, those students who really struggle to read, I bet those tests are really hard for them. Yeah.
So Luke, to your point, when we there are kids that we can see if they just went click, click, click,
Yeah.
click, click, and then we have a conversation with them about.
It'll
the
red flag
importance.
them. Yeah, it'll say like this student, like especially on our map assessment,
Yeah.
it'll red flag the teacher's computer and say like this student is rapid guessing. You can stop the test and reset it for them, and so you can go over to the student and have a conversation with them like you're not taking your time. So I'm going to reset your test, and I'm going to sit by you and make sure that you take your time, like. So you can have those conversations and reset the test for them.
Some of them it locks automatically, and then
Yeah.
you have to, if you unlock them 3 times, then they're just booted and they have to do a retake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there
There's a little picture of a sloth that says slow down.
Is there the opposite where takes 8 minutes to answer one question and you can identify questions that are, because I mean, humans or animals are, and kids are very good at figuring out the quickest, easiest way to get through something. So if I can just pace myself, I'm not saying that they're trying to get out of this, but I wouldn't put it past many students that are just disengaging from this
Yeah.
exam, and that might represent, I mean, what that might represent some of those children that are below the assessment level, but you could look at the national
Right.
average, I suppose, and see that. But
Yeah.
I was just curious if it gave you any of that data.
No, but I think that that's what was good, that the teachers, the 7th and 8th grade teachers said that they were taking those test questions back to students. And some of them were going to poll like each test question and pull the students that missed them back to the table with them. And they were going to go through the test questions with the students. Like, so tell me, like, where did you get hung up? Like, what was hard about this question? And see where the students got stuck. So that would give them more information, like, on where to help support the students. So.
Kind of going off what you said, is there a way for you guys to take out of the data the kids that are just clicking through? Because speaking as a student, I know of many students who have, whether it's like Panorama or Map or whatever, have figured out how to, or like still do just click through. So do you guys have a way to remove that from the data, or is that just kind of mixed in?
Yeah, there's no way to remove them, but that's why that's not only our one piece of data. That's why we have other multiple data sources that we use to see how a student's performing. It's just not just that one piece of data. So that's why we have the unit assessments. We use other pieces of data, just not that one snapshot, because it's not the best snapshot. It's just Map's just a screener. So, yep.
Wouldn't the unit test be a great way for students to practice the test-taking skills? And
You nailed it.
okay.
Yes, and that's what we talked about. Like our teachers going back and modeling, right? On like why this is the correct answer and like how to eliminate some of the choices. So that's what they were incorporating into their bell ringers, especially those ones that they noticed that most of the students missed. They were putting into their bell ringers this week, and they were going to model the strategy of test taking of like why are we going to eliminate this one, or like how to best answer them. Yeah.
Anyone else?
I just have one more.
Sure, go
one
ahead,
more
Luke.
question. Is there a mechanism for teachers to give feedback on what they think of this curriculum and the assessments?
Yeah. So the teachers get to with this curriculum, the teachers get to choose like the assessment. They can adapt and accommodate the assessment. So they get to, even though like the curriculum has these test questions, the teachers get to go in and they can choose the test questions that they give to their students. Or they can, like, if they don't like the wording of it, like they can change it. So the teachers do have that that, I don't know, what's the word? They do have that ability to go in and change the assessment. Like if they don't like the question, or if they don't like the story, there is like 2 parts to the assessment, like, so they can choose which test question to give them. So it's not just this one.
What about with the curriculum itself?
There's pros and, like with curriculums, there's pros and cons. Like,
Is there an anonymous feedback system that they can?
that's a good idea. We haven't done like a survey, what they think. We just ask them in person, like, what are pros to this, but like, what are cons? And we try to work through the cons that they don't like and try to problem solve. Because teachers are pretty honest with us. Like, this part of the curriculum is really hard, or we're really struggling on this part. We don't like this. And so then we work with them on try to problem solve of like how to get around that, or how to like, what can we do instead of I'm trying to think of an example of something in the curriculum that they didn't like some of the stories. So in each unit, there's so many stories. And so like last year we had them try all of the stories, but this year we did backwards planning with them and they got to choose the specific stories, so they didn't have to do all of them. So they had some choice there. But there are pros and cons to all curriculums, but I like your idea of surveying them.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Anyone else? I do have a couple more. So, we're changing multiple things at once. We're trying lots of things, and we need to, because we have a long way to raise our scores to where we want them to be. So when you're doing an assessment of trying to figure out, oh, hey, our test scores in this place worked really well, or we're struggling here, how do you separate when we, whether it's changing curriculum or doing push-in model instead of pull-out model, or we did other changes all at the same time here, right? We changed all the maps and kids are going in different buildings. So how do you kind of isolate cause and effect, I guess, when multiple things are happening in the classroom, multiple changes are happening in the classroom at once?
Well, I'm only year 2 here.
Yeah. I was going to say.
And with year 2 in the curriculum, so I'm just looking at the data from the curriculum that we're implementing. And so, I mean, there's multiple factors that go into it of looking at data pieces. So, like, looking at classes that have really high scores, there could be a lot of multiple factors for that. It could be classroom management, I think, for that. What are they truly implementing the curriculum with fidelity? What teaching strategies are they using? How are they using their data? Are they using small groups? Are they different? I mean, there's just so many factors to look at, to consider. And then you look at individual data, you look at whole class data, you look at building-wide data. There's just so many trends that you can look for. There's a lot you could look for with data. Data tells you a lot of information, sometimes too much, where it's overwhelming. Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah.
Can I say, to your point, Paul,
Sure.
we did change our push-in and pull-out model at the same time that we implemented new curriculum. So I don't know that there's a way that we can tease out any of the growth that we see is attributed to our co-teachers pushing in. Or if we can tell it's because we have a evidence-based science of reading curriculum now, where for years and years and years, teachers had their own choice of how they were teaching certain standards through our priority standards that we gave them. So in order to be able to say, wow, we see this much growth because co-teachers are pushing in. I know last year, co-teachers were pushing into lots of spaces. I think this year we'll be able to see that a little more intentionally because our co-teachers are focused on K-1-2, because we saw that our students, like Jesse said it, we have 4th graders who don't have basic skills and need phonics and need decoding. So we pushed our co-teachers more to that area to focus on kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. And they're also working with new teachers and long-term subs, but primarily at the primary level. So I think in the next couple years, as we see maybe faster growth than what we saw this year, we might be able to attribute it to that is a direct result of having a co-teacher in those kindergarten classrooms and 1st grade and 2nd grade classrooms. Last year, because it was new curriculum, we wanted to roll it out with fidelity, and we had the co-teachers really working across the board at the elementary level. And this year it is going to be, it is way more focused. So we'll be able to see, comparing our kindergarten growth from this year to last year, to say, wow, that is a huge difference because co-teachers were really focusing on K-1-2. So that may be something we see in the future, but this year I don't know that we can say that.
Yeah,
So.
that's helpful. And one more question, and It was really great to see the M-Class data, and it's exciting to see the improved results from year to year. That's awesome. I was wondering if there are specific, I guess, concerns specific to dual language instruction in terms of either testing or do the results kind of in dual language mimic what we're seeing elsewhere at elementary?
Yeah, it's pretty similar. They take a lot more assessments though, because they have to take it in Spanish and English, or their home language and English. But their test scores are pretty similar to what we're seeing across like other buildings. But some of them are actually higher, like in the higher grades, like 3, 4, 5. That their test scores are a little bit higher.
Go ahead.
So the only group that didn't improve to some extent was the now 5th graders, right? So those would have been kids in kindergarten, correct, during the break from school. Is there any type of extra focus that should be or is being placed on those kids?
Yeah, so it just depends on what the data says. So, I mean, it's phonics instruction. I mean, those students still need phonics instruction. And when students get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, they focus more on like vocabulary and like grammar versus like basic phonics. So, you know, at the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade level in their Tier 1 instruction, they're not getting that phonics instruction. So, you know, how do teachers in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, especially 4th grade, embed those specific like phonics skills into the curriculum when it's not in there? That's the question. And how do we do it? Like, what do we take away?
So one thing we did is we tweaked the elementary schedules a little bit this year too, to make sure that our all grades can have, we call it a win time or like an intervention block time. So when Jessie talks about Tier 1, she's saying that is core instruction everybody gets, right? Everyone gets the core instruction as Tier 1. But then Tier 2 is you get the core instruction in addition to something on top of that. And so what we've tried to do with the elementary schedules this year, because there is so much and not enough time to do it all, is for those grade levels, they're doing some more intervention around like what I need time is like win time or intervention time, where if we know we have 4th graders who morphology and grammar and they don't know basic letter sounds and phonemes and phonics, that is a time where someone can go in and push in and work with those students during that win time to give them that specific phonics instruction that they are not going to get in their 4th grade curriculum, because the 4th grade curriculum is moved on to grammar and prefixes and suffixes and things like that.
Kids also just need to be, we also, for this year, for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, because we saw this trend data last year with like our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. So this year in the schedule for 4th and 5th grade, we built in extra 15 minutes of reading time, like actual reading, where students have books in their hands, like books of their choice, but also like working on that fluency piece at their level. So fluency reads to build up their fluency and working on that. So we built in that extra 15 minutes this year of that reading, because students just don't get enough practice like reading. Like that, we have our curriculum of like reading comprehension, but like enjoyable reading, like books. They just need that time to read books that they enjoy. So we did 15 minutes, and in that 15 minutes too of like building that fluency. It's just kind of like you remember Deer Time, like drop everything and read. Just to bring back the joy of reading with our students. So we built in that time as well.
Anyone else? Thank you. I've really appreciated having
Yeah.
this discussion. It's great to spend time here on things that actually impact student learning.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Next up is our discussion on our new district-wide communication tool.
Oh, nope, fall enrollment report.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I missed that. Fall enrollment report.
Yep, so I am going to walk us through that. So you have the enrollment update. And to start, let's see when John gets us there. So we talked about our 6-day numbers back in August, and we said that we were really going to start focusing more on looking at data after the 10th day of school, which is when we rerun our numbers to finalize enrollment numbers after we've done those drops. So I think I talked about that with you last time we looked at some of our numbers. So today we want to look at the numbers that we're pulling from our enrollment, from our Skyward enrollment, of after we've done those drops and after we've kind of figured out where all of our students have gone and what new students we have. I know that has been something that has been interesting to the board. I do want to say, just to start off, our enrollment changes every single day, and you'll see that in Brandy Stover, our person who does the class count reports for you. She was on vacation, so when she ran her numbers, she ran them based on September 30th data. And then Julia Stell, our other, who works with our student information system person, they looked at the October 1st numbers. And just even comparing those 2 days, we have more students. So it isn't a finite, like, okay, we're looking at it from that perspective. I think from the board's perspective, when we bring this information to you, it's important to think about trends. It's important to see if we've talked for the last few years about our enrollment kind of staying flat. We're not seeing these huge increases and fluctuations, at one level versus another. And we're not seeing huge exoduses from the district, right? And I know the pie chart that is in here is something that in previous years, most board members like to know where are the students that are leaving, where are they going, and then who are the students that are coming. So that is really what I want to focus on in sharing this information with you. I'm not going to read all the numbers to you because you've had this since Friday. You haven't had the class count information. Like I said, Brandy just came back yesterday, so we sent that to you yesterday. So I might spend a little more time there, but stop me as we go if there are questions. So if we go to the next slide, you'll see here this year our enrollment is 422, and that includes our pre-K numbers. All 3 of these years include our early childhood numbers, so that is the 3-year total enrollment comparison. So 25-26 is very similar to 24-25, just, it changes by the day, like I mentioned earlier. But it's important to know that we're staying around that 4,200 number. 4369 is our number before we redistricted. And we've seen just some changes since then, so since the 23-24. So I know when we talked about the 6-day enrollment, kind of moving away from that report and really focusing on being able to see the trends over the years, we still collect that data even after we've done the drops. So as you can see, I think when we did the 6-day enrollment, there were about 100 more students. So we've dropped quite a few students since we looked at this from 6-day. So I think the important thing on this chart is really to focus on the trends and the patterns. So we can see, again, we're staying very similar at our early childhood level. When we see changes of 9 kids, 16 kids, 13 kids, that isn't overwhelming or a huge issue for us, because we know, 9 students less when we ran this report on October 1st. When we run it again in March, we might have 9 additional students there. So it really does change, especially depending on the neighborhoods. We do have neighborhoods that are more mobile because of housing, and people are moving in and out of some of those spaces a lot more frequently, depending on the school. So I think the district total change here compared to when we looked at this in earlier, maybe beginning September, is our district total has increased about 60 students from 2025 to 2024. And the next one should be the pie chart. Did you go by? Okay, maybe mine is out of order. Okay. Mine has the student movement out of the district based on withdrawal codes. So this is one that we have talked about a lot, which I think has been interesting to the board, is where are some of our students that move out of the district going. So if you look at the blue, you can see the majority of the students who left us go to Unit 4. And I'm just going to be honest, I think one of the reasons that happens is just housing. I mean, there are more areas and more low income and middle income housing available in Champaign. And so when families are struggling with finding permanent housing, Champaign does have more options. So I think that is why we lose a lot of our students to Unit 4. Let's see. Another big area I know that we've talked about a lot is private and parochial. So that number is a little lower. 3.4% of our students who have left us have gone to private and parochial. We don't list, we know where they have gone, but when we code the data, we're more concerned not, which private school they went to. We could pull that if we needed to, but more so that we're not losing a significant amount of students at the private and parochial level. That was a little different during COVID because we were remote for a whole year, and that number was a lot higher because we had families who left the district during that time because we weren't in school, but a lot of our parochial and private neighbors were in school. So I'm happy to see that hopefully some of those students those families are coming back to the district, which is really important to us. Another big number is the unknown, that 10%. We do, and our clerical folks and our administrators are really tasked with doing everything they can to find out where people go. So unknown is like the last possible resort of we've called, we've sent U.S. mail, we have done a home visit, we've done everything we can to figure out why that student didn't show up on the first day, why they haven't shown up after the 10th day. But again, there are instances where students leave the district and we don't know where they go, and sometimes we don't get a record request. So we do have to mark them as unknown. Another big area is our families that have moved out of the county. So they're at another Illinois school, but not in Champaign County. So that is a bigger group, 16%. And then Champaign County, not Unit 4, is 5%. That is the group, we typically lose families to Rantoul. And again, Rantoul is another place where people tend to go to find housing. They have really affordable housing there. And some of the families that I know we've lost to Rantoul City Schools, it's because they have found permanent housing there. And then USA schools, not Illinois, is when our, that 13% kind of at the top, that greenish color, is another large category where we have families who just move out of the state, right? They go to Arizona, they go to New York, or wherever they might go. So that is another big group for us. So questions about this?
Yeah, what is the total number of students that have left? Because when you say a certain percentage, it could be just a few people, so few
I
students.
don't think I don't think we did exact numbers for that. We never usually put that on this chart. But if you go back to the little orangish chart, our number this year is 4222, and last year it was 4159. So if we look at those two numbers, that is about the number of people who have left us for this year. But again, people leave and then new people come in. So it really is hard to say exactly how many.
And
So-
I think from, not this year, but from previous years' school report cards, the student mobility, I think, is right around 15%.
Yeah.
So that's 15% of 4,000 is.
And it can be
600.
higher for certain schools. Like at King's School, the mobility used to be 30%. So I think our district average is about 15, 16, but I think it impacts different buildings differently. And then the next one is into district student movement. And so this is where the biggest group here is that 26.9% is we have no previous school for them because they're kindergartners. We have quite a few students this year who came to us who've never been in any school. They didn't go to our early childhood center. They weren't in a nursery school or Head Start, and so that is a larger group than we normally have. We lose families to Unit 4, but then we also get families from Unit 4. So if you look at the last slide, we had 33%, almost 34% of our students went to Unit 4, but then we had almost 17% coming to us from there. So that's one of the drawbacks of living in a twin city and having a sister city next to us like we do, is there is a lot of movement back and forth, a lot of movement between Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul. And I think the main reason people are moving so much is just really finding housing. So we have received quite a few students from other Illinois schools. That is that 14.8% at the bottom. I think as Chicago and Kankakee, as they have closed some of their public housing, the last couple years we've received lots of students from the city of Chicago, and this year and last year we've seen quite a few new families from Kankakee. So that has been interesting as well. USA movement in, so that's just students coming from other states, that number at the 8.8% at the top. We have some homeschool families who've come back to us, so that is nice, almost 5% there. We always have families who choose to educate their students at home, and that's fine, but when they do choose to come to the district for the different services and classes and things that we offer, that's wonderful as well. And of course, our international families is what represents that group that says foreign over there, about 8%. Yep.
I was wondering, just local, what is a local school if it's not an Illinois, if it's not a
It
county?
might be Campus Middle School for girls, or
And that wouldn't be under the
they're not always
private
considered
parochial?
private or pro. I don't know, what would be a local? I'm trying to think of a
I
good
think
example.
those are students in the county that aren't Rantoul and Champaign.
Okay, thank you, John.
And
I was trying to think of an example.
accelerated. If a student was here, just as a definition for me to understand, a student was here last year, but they were accelerated, we count them as coming into the district? I mean,
That is probably like 2 kids. Yeah,
And
yeah.
those are their entry codes into the grade. So their entry code is accelerated instead of, this excludes kids whose entry code is promoted, which means they moved from 6th grade to, but that, don't worry about that extremely
Such a
tiny
small-
sliver.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, I think we can keep going. Oh, okay, so enrollment report by site. So that black line there is kind of like a trend line. We just wanted to give you a visual representation to remind you, when you look at the DPW, Leal, and Yankee Ridge data, that the first year of these numbers represents before we redistricted and before we had our dual language elementary school. So 24, 25, and of course 25, 26 represents the enrollment since we have since kind of redistricted everyone and opened up the dual language school at Yankee Ridge. So that's just kind of a visual reminder there for you. And you can see where Leal, Dr. Williams, where those numbers were a lot higher before we opened up our dual language school. And now that population has really shifted to Yankee Ridge multilingual, and you can see their growth. They're the school that is growing. King has had a little more growth in the last 2 years, and that is because a lot of our international families are coming back to us after the pandemic, which is wonderful. And then Leal and Thomas Paine, the changes that you see in their growth in the last 2 years is just mainly because we redistricted, and when we redrew the boundary lines, it did redistrict students in a different way. So that is the 3-year comparison there by elementary. We keep going. And then, yep, we did these two. We already did this one, yep. You can keep going. Oh, you don't have the right. Okay, so if you go to your packet, you have the class count data that we received from Brandy. And again, I'm not going to read all these numbers to you, but the purpose of giving you the last 3 years of this is really to talk about class size and just some of those trends since we, oh, John does have it, since we redistricted and since we've opened up our dual language school. So I think, again, I'm not going to go grade by grade and school by school. I think the important thing that I see when I look at these is that comparing the last 2 years to this year, our class sizes are looking really great. So if you go to 2025, John. So this is the first elementary class count that you've seen, and we have talked about this a little bit, but right now we have no grades or no individual classes at any of our schools that are over or close to the class adjustment level, which is fantastic. I think we've talked here about the effect size and how important class size is on student learning, and I think this aligns with what our demographer report pretty much told us when we had our consultants, is that our enrollment was really going to stabilize at the elementary level. And it is showing us that it has. And so we're able to sustain all of the class sizes and the class strands that we've had in the past, and also keep those classes at a manageable level for our teachers. And so that is also a nice cost savings to the district, because we've had years where we've had 8, 9, 10 class size adjustment teaching assistants starting the year with us when we had classes that had 28, 29, 30 students. But we're not seeing that right now, and these numbers really make me feel good about the learning and teaching that our teachers are able to do, and we can keep their classes smaller. Yeah.
I've heard, though, that at Yankee Ridge, they have very large arts classes because they're combining some of the classes because of the
Because of the schedule. So
and so what is happening with that? Because
well, they're still lower than the class size, so we don't put them over the class size adjustment. And if they're doing that, then I don't know about that. So I need to talk to the Yankee Ridge administrators about that if that's happening. So you're saying they're combining multiple classes into one arts class? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that that was happening. So if that is happening, then that is something that I will talk to the administrators about. So our fine arts teachers should not be going over the class size limits either. So if that's happening, then that's something we can discuss with them.
also they had to carve out another classroom.
Yep.
out
And we
of
did
the-
that intentionally because the
Right.
kindergarten numbers were so large last
Right.
year. They started off in a good place, so if you look at the September numbers, you're not going to really get a good sense of where the kindergarten classes were. But at the end of the year, starting in January, we saw we had a lot of new families coming in, especially our Spanish emergent bilingual students. So we had classes in the kindergartens at Yankee Ridge that had 25, 26, and they all had a class size adjustment TA. And we've talked about adding that kindergarten class. I know Randy's had it in his facilities, summer reports and things like that. And this year, after having a year like that, we said, we've been talking about making that extra class, and we just did it. And I'm glad we did, because right now their classes are smaller, but we know that we will have students trickling in and filling up those spaces just like we did last year. So if you look at the last couple years, they started at 22, 23, and they were bigger and bigger. So having that extra classroom is really going to impact that class size and being able to really move those students at a much faster rate.
That's good. And I was wondering, I had asked at one of the meetings if we could have, and I can't remember the terms, so I'm just going to say, but there were numbers that were given to us about the schools and the number of students they could hold. And one was
the
kind
capacity.
of a, yeah, one was kind of a busting at the seams
capacity, and one was a functional capacity. Those are just my words. But I was wondering if we could get those.
We
I-
have those, the capacity, I know we had it in our facilities when we had all
And
of our
I looked for my
facilities
copy
reports.
of that, and
Sure.
I cannot find
Yeah,
it.
Randy's writing it down. But looking at these numbers, we are not bursting at the seam in
No.
any spaces, which is fantastic, so. But
And-
yes, we can get you that. Randy has that.
And do we have that for all of the schools?
We have it, yeah, we have it because what we did for the facilities committee is we know every single classroom and based on the size of the class, how many students it could hold. If we, our contract has class size language, so we don't go over class size language unless it is a huge increase in enrollment for some reason. But there are numbers that if we could, there are rooms, of course, where we could put 30 kids. Do we want to put 30 kids in a classroom? Absolutely not. But there are a lot of spaces where we could do that because the capacity would allow it.
Okay,
So, yep.
so if we could get that, I'd appreciate
Yeah,
it.
Randy has it. Okay, so I am gonna move on. I don't know that what these charts do is basically just kind of break out for you what the class count charts that Brandy has given you do. So same things, you can see the years where before we had dual language, and you can just kind of go through these, John. I'm not gonna talk about them. And now compared to where Yankee Ridge is, they are our largest elementary school, and they're going to continue to be our largest elementary school just because one of the demographic groups that is growing the most is our Spanish emergent bilingual students. That is where we see the most mobility in and out of the district right now, and of course that is going to impact Yankee Ridge because that is where a lot of those families choose to go. Now we do have some families, like we just had a family at King who they're Spanish speakers and they chose to be at King instead of at Yankee Ridge, and that happens. But the majority of our emergent bilingual Spanish families do tend to choose to be in the dual language program. So I think the next charts really talk about secondary. So it gives you a little more, if you want to go to, this just shows you year by year, the last 3 years. So this gives you a little bit of that trend data, not spread out, 10 years at a time, but you can look at the bottom and compare 2023, 2024, and 2025. This one, if you want to go back, John, that one basically just shows you the breakout down there of our 6th grade center. When Brandy ran this report on September 30th, there were 305 students. And then pretty typically our middle school has about 600. We typically have, and that has been the trend for as long as I've been in the district, as superintendent rather. Is having 300 6th graders, 300 7th graders, 300 8th graders. That has basically been our trend with a few fluctuations, maybe a grade level or two, maybe having a few more than 300, but that is pretty typical for us to have about 900 to 925 the last couple years. We're also seeing here some growth at the high school. So, my earlier years, we were staying around that 1,100, 1,150, and we've recently seen a little growth at our high school of having more than 1,200 students there. So that is good to see students coming back to our high school. Because as we've talked about here, we have a lot to offer at our high school, so it's wonderful that families are coming back. So unless you have specific questions, I just kind of wanted to point out a few trends and a few of noticings that are things that I think previous boards and previous discussions that we've had here about enrollment.
I don't have a question by this statement or observation, is that when I saw these, I went back to look at the Champaign middle schools just to see how they compare number-wise with our middle school, and it looks like, I don't have the exact numbers, but they were around 600.
Yep, they usually are between 600 and 700.
Yeah, so the fact that we had over almost 900.
300 more.
Yeah, makes me feel more comfortable about
Yep,
how many
absolutely.
students are in that building
Yep.
now.
Yep. That's a good observation, Sherry. So yes, I can't remember which Champaign middle school, John might remember. I was mostly with elementary folks when I was there, but I can't remember which middle school was the biggest, but I think out of all three of theirs, the biggest is maybe 750.
I think Jefferson was always really consistent
Yeah,
at 750.
750, yeah. Yeah. Okay. And next is
Yeah.
what you were trying to get to. Paul was anxious to talk
Yeah,
about.
I'm anxious to hear about our new district-wide communication tool, that's the administrative report 10.2. John and Catherine Tellis will be presenting that to us.
Catherine made sure John did not bring a box full of props this time.
Catherine made me promise to keep it under 50, 60 minutes. So I'm joking. This is a very brief kind of review of like one of our strategic plan goals. So speaking of, we in the strategic planning committee, we're in group 3B, focusing on communicating with families. And one of our general goal overall was to improve the district's communication with families and our kind of how we're interacting with families. So did you want to talk about the?
I think specifically we really wanted to emphasize the families that we're not currently reaching, because no matter how many messages we send, there are still so many families who say they don't know what is going on in our district. And so when we were doing strategic planning and talking to families and community members, that was kind of a current theme of we want to know what's going on. We want one messaging system. And the other theme was there's still a large number of people that we're just not reaching, no matter how hard we try.
Yeah, and sometimes the harder we try, the more we lose people because people get message fatigue, and that's when they hit the unsubscribe button or they block us on text. So to that end, we had a lot of survey data, and from the survey data, two of the biggest things that came out of it was parents appreciate a rich messaging tool, but they didn't really care what it is, but they really want us to have one unified tool for the district. As a parent myself, at points in my life, I've had literally 10 different things: Remind, Classroom Dojo, GroupMe, Skyward Messaging, School Messenger, all coming at me in all different ways, and it's so hard to keep track of and juggle. And then the other thing we came up with in our group was that there's the families that we're not meeting every year, the kind of unreachable families. We want to, every year for the next 5 years, be able to reduce that number by 50%. So those are our two goals for the strategic planning process. So talking about the tool, I'll let Catherine, if you want, talk a little bit about the evaluation process.
So we kind of looked at what every school, well, what we thought every school was using, and then what the district was already using. And we narrowed that list down to 3 based on kind of what they offered and who offered really what we needed, because we need something that can do translations, communicate via email, via text, via phone, that has an app, but also different ways for people who don't necessarily have a smartphone. They can still get it on their email. So we narrowed it down to Parent Square, Seesaw, and then School Messenger, which is what we're currently using. They have a new, it's called My Power Hub. It's basically an updated version of what we're using now. We looked into each of those and what they offered. We looked into them with, we kind of had a group of staff and parents, and we kind of investigated what they offered, how that would look if we were to all switch to it. Let's see, go one more. Okay, so then, and we also got sandbox versions of them, so we were able to play around with them and have our building administrators play around with them and see how the, specifically Yankee Ridge, we had one of their APs, assistant principals, look at how is it translating? Is it going to do it well? Because that's a huge problem we have right now, is that sometimes things don't translate the way we are. If we need to send something quick and we don't have someone to translate it and we rely on the auto translating system, sometimes it doesn't come across how we want it to. And so we really want something that's going to utilize the technology to get us those messages translated in a way that the families can receive them.
Yep. And we specifically did some like in-depth tests with like some idioms and how it translates. We tried not to use those in our district communication as much as possible, but if you say, thank you for riding shotgun with me, or there's more than one way to skin a cat, and some of the translation programs, it'll come across very badly. And so that was one of the criteria that we're using to evaluate these.
And just in our education in general, there's a lot of jargon. And so we've had Lucia Maldonado does a lot of Spanish translating for me. And sometimes she'll say, what are you trying to say? This isn't translating into Spanish well. And so we really try to work on not using a lot of that. Sometimes you have to, especially depending on the type of messaging you're sending. And so we really tried to look at that when we were evaluating the 3 that we had narrowed it down to.
And within the sandbox versions, we also did kind of an in-depth technical evaluation that I will not go into the details of here, but we wanted to make sure they had all the features and the ability to integrate with our systems that we needed. And then finally, to kind of look at those, we held a focus group with teachers and parents just because we wanted to make sure that we got feedback from kind of all the angles and looking at everything. And they had some really valuable things to share with us too that we made sure we included in our final decision moving forward. So after all of that evaluation and feedback from everybody and looking at all the options, narrowing it down and doing an in-depth testing with those 3, we did decide to go ahead and move forward with Parent Square. This is a very feature-rich version of the communication software. It will allow us to do kind of the same district-level communication that we've been doing a lot through School Messenger, and it will also let us kind of incorporate at the different levels kind of a lot of the classroom communication that people have been getting from literally every communication platform, but a lot of Classroom Dojo, Remind, things like that. And it also lets us do building level and even kind of some sports level messaging so that we can kind of integrate everything into one communication tool. So some of the things this lets you have that made it, we thought, the best tool. As you have things, let's say I have hypothetically a middle school cross-country student and a high school tennis student, and she's doing her classes, which is foods and algebra, and he's doing his classes, which are geometry. You get a news feed just for your things. So if you have a school newsletter and a cross-country match report and where you need to pick up your kid for tennis, that will all be in your news feed, and you won't get anything about all of the other stuff like soccer and marching band, which doesn't really apply to you. It also allows for two-way communication via email and SMS. So as a teacher, you can text parents through the app. They'll get a obfuscated phone number, not your phone number, that they'll get the text from, and they can text you back. And you can set business hours, work hours in your app so that they can text you back during the day, and you can have that kind of two-way communication at a district, building, classroom, coach level.
It also lets families select their language. So if I were to send John a text in English, it would come to him in Spanish if that was his language, and he could respond in Spanish, and it would come back to me, and I would read it in English. So it allows teachers to communicate with families who English may not be their preferred language. And it has more than just Spanish and French, and that's something we're missing right now, is that we have many other languages in our district that families speak or would prefer their messaging in, and so they can set their platform to receive the message in that language. The other, something that I am very excited about, is that their critical messaging So if we send something about there's no school today because of weather, or someone's getting out early because there was a water burst or something happened and we need parents to know, there's a button that we can hit that says it's critical. And even if they chose not to receive messages from us, if they blocked us in some way, they're going to get that message. Because no matter how many ways we communicate, if there's an e-learning day, every year we have students show up at the buildings that just they didn't get the message for whichever reason. And so I'm really hoping that this reduces or increases the families that are receiving those really critical messages that we really need them to see in a timely manner.
Yep. And as a parent or someone receiving the messages, there's also an option to include students in there. You can set your messaging preferences. So if you want one daily digest that you get at the end of the day of all your messages, you can get things that way. Or if you want to receive messages instantly as they come in, you can receive them that way. So it gives people a lot more flexibility to kind of prevent that message fatigue and give them like more options of how they receive things. The other thing, there's a lot of enhanced mailing options. So instead of just kind of the generic school messenger text you get, they have some more rich templates and ways to send things out. So, yep, this was what we talked about, having unified messaging tool to improve engagement. And this is kind of a screenshot from just a generic school of what the app looks like and what the desktop looks like. And I actually have, as of today or yesterday, we got our district app is up and running. So this is what it looks like in the actual tool. So you have the ability to send posts. If you send posts, you can use either the standard messaging, or if you hit the studio editor, this is where you have some of those different templates, and we can create more rich and diverse templates for people to use as we go. Let me get back out of here. And then the messages, this is where you can have that two-way messaging. This also allows you to set up group messages. So the two-way messaging will just be to send things to an individual parent. But if you need to do, well, my daughter has like a potluck sign up for tennis or something, you can have multiple people all talking on one group. And then the alerts and notices, that's what we're talking about, where you can send out urgent things that'll override the settings. And then all of this pulls directly from Skyward. So this is just for the 6th grade center. As we set it up today, it pulled all the 19 cheerleading girls and 15 basketball girls and the student council cross-country kids all into a group automatically. So you don't have the, click on the QR code, sign into this thing, log into my bit.ly anymore. That's all kind of set up and automated for everybody.
So we are going to pilot this with a few schools first to kind of see how it works and see if there's any issues with it, to see how families receive it. We had several principals very excited to try this, and then we kind of selected based on early childhood, just because they're our youngest group of kids and they have a lot of challenges communicating with their families right now. Yankee Ridge specifically because they communicate in Spanish and French a lot, and we really want to make sure that before we go district-wide that we really have that translation feature working as well as we need it to. And then the middle school is just as for a secondary level school.
So, and we wanted to have one at kind of each level so that we could get a breadth of like feedback and opinions from everybody.
So our plan is to start using Parent Square with these buildings in November, along with the communication department using Parent Square for the district communication that is sent out we are going to require everyone in the administrators using this to go through a training first, not only to learn the platform, but to kind of go over some best practices for communication, how you communicate, how often you communicate, what types, like email, phone calls, text, like they're going to have the ability to do these things, but we want to make sure that they understand how families are receiving them and maybe kind of what's happening now at those schools, because I can pull reports, John can pull reports of people, and we can show them, like, these are your families who have blocked us, so maybe we need to streamline how we're communicating. Maybe don't when you over communicate, right? I say there's a difference between over communicating and good communicating. Just because you're communicating with the family doesn't mean they're receiving it if you're sending them multiple messages every day. So we're really gonna go through some training with them on best practices. And then in January, we want all of their communication as of January 5th after winter break, and they've had that training in December. We want them to start using it to communicate with their families and stop using the school messenger. So families can expect it to come from there, and we'll obviously be messaging along the way with staff and families to let them know. At that time, it's going to be voluntary for teachers to use it. We just don't want to switch them mid-year from whatever platform they are using, just because that's really hard on everyone. And then for school year 26-27, all communication to families would come from Parent Square from all levels, the district level, the building level, teachers, coaches. We really want families to have one platform that they can use to get everything. That was a common theme in our strategic planning sessions that we had with families, where we want to get your messaging, please give us one platform to use it. Like, we will use whatever you want us to use, but if we could have the same thing from preschool through 12th grade, we don't have to switch every year. Or we have 3 platforms for one school because each teacher likes something different. So that's what we want to land on, and it is going to be, I'm sure we're going to have to do a lot of training and a lot of communicating with our staff and our families to make sure, but this platform really has a lot of benefits that we think that our families will like.
Yep. And I did want to add, I just today added one sports coach at the secondary level to also be included in that early pilot, whose sport is starting, I think, at that same time, for beginning of November. So we'll also be doing a sports pilot with that. And then for the training, that's something we'll be developing as we continue to work with our strategic planning committee to kind of get that input to make sure we can do those effectively. So just to wrap up, the feedback that we've gotten from families and teachers and principals as we've been showing them this tool and evaluating all the tools was that having all communication on the single platform, great. And then also having an app and an ability to access past communication. I didn't mention it, but there's also a search feature that lets you go through all your customized posts. There's also a calendar that will give you a customized calendar just for your personal events. But having an app to be able to look at all of that stuff is a big benefit. From teachers, they were most excited about having a way to have two-way communication with parents, especially when they're not at school, if they're away on field trips or at sports events or clubs. And then from the principals, having a feature-rich platform to do communications that they don't kind of have to shoehorn everything into a platform where I know I've sometimes been manually editing HTML to make things not look incredibly clunky. And then I don't think I mentioned this early on, but the AI translation tool is how they're doing their translation, which lets you have a lot more a lot more rich idiom translation that lets you be a little bit more expressive with your language. That was all for the Parent Square portion. I am going to give you one very quick update on the cell tower installation, and then we'll be happy to take any questions. The new tower is built. We got an update on The actual physical tower is being built somewhere at a steel factory. I'm not sure where. And our tentative installation is now for early December. We have a project kickoff meeting this week on the 9th, where we're going to be talking about the phasing and specific dates. The general proposed construction schedule is that there'll be a crane that comes in to dismantle the old cell tower. They will have to dig and pour a pretty substantial new foundation just next to where the current tower is. And then in one day, a crane will come and unload the new tower directly onto the foundation. The total construction duration should be about 30 days, but a good chunk of that is waiting for the foundation to cure. So we'll have more information about that as it becomes available. I know as the 6th grade centers come online and we've had new staff at the middle school, I cannot even begin to count the number of people who've asked me when this is going to be finishing. So not soon enough for anybody, but we're moving as quickly as we can for a project of this scale. So are there any questions about Parent Square or cell service?
I was wondering, the old data that is on the systems that the teachers and families and administrators currently use, will that just go away, disappear, or will that be somehow brought in? You know, if you change it over and the parent said, well, I did contact you back in blah, blah, blah about this.
But do you mean the messages? The
Yeah,
previous
messages.
messages or the actual data that lives in the database part?
No, I meant the messages between parents and teachers and administrators.
So those are emails. I mean, you can access them through the app, but you would also be able to access them through your email provider. I mean, they don't just disappear. Like the old ones, like just because we don't use School Messenger, I have a folder in my email that has every message I've ever sent. Those don't just disappear. Just the platform that we use is not being used anymore. So, and we're also not switching teachers over until the new school year. Partly for that, we want to make sure that we don't cause any more disruption than we really have to.
And that's for School Messenger. As far as all of the myriad other platforms teachers are using right now, most of those are not federated, so we don't have access to that messaging as it is, which is another problem as we deal with legal issues and lots of other things. Having something that is like built into the district where we can have access to pull things if we need is a big benefit of the new system. That's not something we've had on whatever teachers have been using.
I guess talk about cost. So is this a yearly fee? Is there like a fee per, because we're at a certain class, like 4,000 students? Is there an additional fee for the translation services? I'm just kind of wondering how that all breaks down.
The cost, as it is right now, we were able to negotiate with them to get the cost down so that it is very similar to what we're currently paying on School Messenger. If we were to go to the new School Messenger system, it's kind of a wash cost-wise. Because we're doing kind of a slow rollout this year where we have both systems simultaneously, we have a very good deal for this year while we have both of those going.
And it is based on enrollment, so there's like a cost per student that then we were able to negotiate down, but that cost includes everything that we had talked about. Like it shows the cost is kind of based on your enrollment, where like our district will pay X, but a district that has twice the number of kids would pay more because they have more kids.
Yeah, and there are some, as there always are, like additional bells and whistles you could purchase. That's not what we're implementing right now. Everything that we showed you tonight is included in the package that we're purchasing.
Anyone else? Thank you for this exciting presentation. I'm really excited about the cell tower too. Okay. moving on, we have a single action item this evening. This is advance approval of September bills and checks. Because of fall break, we would not be meeting on the third Tuesday of the month. We're meeting on the fourth Tuesday of the month, and that doesn't give us enough time to approve the bills for that need to be paid from September. So we're doing it now, even though we don't have the numbers quite yet. We'll be reviewing them at our next meeting. So the chair would entertain a motion for advance approval of September bills and checks.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further questions, comment, or discussion? Roll call, please.
Member Hickson?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Baxley?
Yes.
President Pulowski?
Yes.
Member Cheryl?
Yes.
Motion passes. We have a pair of policy reviews this evening to finish our agenda here. First up is Press Plus 119.
And this one is a fairly short and kind of very simple one, because it is every now and then they go in and they do the 5-year reviews. So this particular press packet is really just 5-year reviews. So typically what they do, if you looked at the main document that Lori sent you with all of the changes and highlights, and I don't know that I have that here, but you can see that most of it is footnotes. Some of it is, if there was a change in some legislation, then they might change the reference code in the footnotes. But that is typically what the 5-year reviews are. I did pull out a couple that were a little bit more than just changing a footnote. So 280, board member oath and conduct. This is basically based on some feedback around oath of office violations. And the language gives boards some options if there are board members that violate their oath of office. So they added some language into 280 board member oath and conduct to reflect that. And then 4180 is the pandemic preparedness, management, and recovery language and policies. That is just basically, the policy itself was unchanged, but they changed the grant flexibility payment employee salaries during the pandemic, which is basically just that they deleted that out because we're not following any of those payments and flexible options that we had when we had people working remotely, and it's just a different climate now, and so that language in 4180 is not something that any districts are using right now because everyone is fully back and in person. So we aren't flexing in grants, and we aren't making significant changes to how we're paying folks. And then 880, gifts to the district, which is interesting since we're talking about the next thing, but this policy is more so adding language for boards to consider when accepting gifts. So this is things like before you accept a donation of some huge piece of equipment or something like that, the board needs to consider, how am I going to install that equipment? Is it going to cost us? That's a great gift, but now we have to maintain it. Now we have to pay for it. So I think it's just reminding boards that those are things that you should consider when you're managing donations, is the liability as well, and the cost to the district around whatever gift you're accepting. So those three were the only ones that were a little bit more than just changing a footnote or a legal reference in the 5-year reviews.
Board members, any questions or comments? This will be up for a vote at
Yes,
our next meeting.
October 28th.
All right, thank you.
Does this this includes the one about policy? What is okay? What is okay? Why we have policies, and there was
Do you have
board
a number?
policy review and monitoring. That's what it is. I found my.
Okay, what, I don't
Does that
have-
include what you just said, the press thing that we're voting on now?
Mhm.
Does that include the board policy review and monitoring
I don't
part?
Do you have a number that I can look at is it 2240, Board Policy Development?
Yes, board policy development.
Okay, let me look at, I don't have that packet in front of me. You have your packet, thank you.
It was in what you sent us.
Yes,
Right.
it's in the, I just don't have the red line version
Okay.
copy. Okay. Was there something specific in 2240 that you wanted to talk about?
I wanted to suggest some changes. I don't know if this is the time when I would do it, or
It
if,
would be.
It would be,
Okay.
and we, of course, our attorneys proof all of this because
Right. Right,
the attorney boards put this together, so we'd have to run it past our attorneys, of course,
Well,
as
I don't
well,
think it-
but-
okay,
Yep.
I don't think I'm asking for something illegal.
No, I
know,
mean,
but-
but it,
Right.
we would be changing, we'd be going against what press is suggesting that we adopt. I think that's why I'm saying that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, so
okay,
when we change this language, the press board and this is their recommendation. Of course, we have the right you guys have the right as a board to not approve what they recommend. But of course, if we decided to change this, I'd want to run it by our attorney just to make sure that.
sure.
Yep.
Yeah, I always thought you could make a policy stricter but not more lax. Maybe that's wrong. But anyway, what I would like to see, in the opening statement where it said the school board governs, blah, 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 using written policies ensure legal compliance, establish board processes, articulate district ends, delegate authority, and define operating limits. And I think that's all true. I don't want to change any of that. But I felt like we should bring, I would like to add the following sentence. Policies are the foundation on which the board, the superintendent, the staff, and the community build trust. I wanted to bring the community into it. How does the community interact with policy? And so,
Okay, yeah.
that's just one thing.
Can you
And-
send me that in writing too after you, or send it to Lori?
Send it to Lori?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's, and then, and I wanted to change one part, because it says in here, the board will support any reasonable interpretation of board policy made by the superintendent. If reasonable minds differ, the board will review the applicable policy and consider need for further clarification. And what I would like to suggest is, if the superintendent finds a policy unclear, the superintendent will bring the question to the full board for discussion before taking action. Because I think that would be something that, I mean, granted, if it's, it's been, oh my God, I got to do this and I didn't understand, that's one thing. But if you're looking at it and saying, oh, do they mean this or this? I think it would be better to bring it to the board.
Okay.
And I don't know how other people would feel about that, but,
I mean, the general practice is we run it by lawyers.
That's what we typically do, yes.
I'm
I
sorry.
mean, when we're confused or unsure with regards to what a policy really means, we usually talk to a lawyer.
Okay, and that's very expensive.
It is, but it's kind of necessary. I mean,
No, I'm not saying it's not necessary, but I'm just saying it would bring the I think that we have lost the community, or certain segments of the community. We were talking about communication before, and I think this would bring the community into the communication about policy and what our policies do for us, do for them, do for the staff. And I guess this is for, policy affects, when I was a teacher, I never thought I would be thinking about policy this much. But policy affects everything we do in the district. It affects hiring and firing and salaries and extra work and everything. And we have had in the past superintendents who fudged on some hiring rules. And, you know, I think it would be better just to have a discussion first and not, I just think it would be better to have a discussion first about, and if there is anything unclear about a policy, why not have us talk about it? And because our policy does not have to be word for word what the state suggested. It can be, as I understand it, more strict, but it can't be less strict. But anyway, that's my thought.
Yeah,
Sherry, go ahead.
yeah, if you could share those things in writing, that'd be great. Yep.
My
thank you.
concern about bringing community is that a community isn't one voice. A community is many voices. And if you're going to indicate that it has to be one voice from the community, that we have to agree with everything that the community says, that it's not helping us to make policy decisions.
Also, if I may interject something, Section 2 of the policy manual is for the board, it's board policy. Section 8 is community relations. In there, you talk about all community-involved policies.
Yeah.
So that's something you also might want to look at. Then if you're wanting something in 2, that's more board directives. Section 8 is community directives. So that might be where you want to look at.
That's helpful, thank you.
Thank you, Lori. That's a good point.
Yeah, I'd have to ponder those specific changes. I mean, general, right, if a board policy is unclear or confusing, yeah, we should be reviewing it and clarifying it, but we also, you know, shouldn't be adopting policies that are unclear or confusing. So, I mean, that's what we should be doing with due diligence. I appreciate you going through the entire document with line by line instead of just looking at the summary, because that's really our job, is to make sure that things make sense and are understandable. But I don't know if we need to spell it out necessarily in this policy, but it may not hurt. I need to think about it more.
Okay.
Anyone else? I guess be prepared to vote on the changes as given, but we be prepared for possible amendments
Yep. Discussion.
and discussion. Okay. Our last policy review this evening is on section 2:105, ethics and gift ban. I asked for this to be put on the agenda mostly because I was approached by an external person who wanted to, well, I basically heard that there was a company that wanted to donate an iPad as a raffle to give to a teacher. And that exceeds the current gift limit for all employees, and board members count in this policy too. You know, what could be, is it possible to amend the policy or change the policy to prevent this, you know, to allow this gift to be given? And so I asked, basically, let's have a discussion on the policy, see if it's possible to amend it. And you know, over the weekend, talked to our attorneys and basically said that the policy is almost word for word from the state statute. It can't, it hasn't been updated in years. So these spending limits were, you know, I don't know, $1990 or $2,005 or something, right? So they haven't been changed to account for inflation at all. They are what they are. There's really not much we can do about it, except we should, you know, all educate ourselves on the current policy, because that's state law. You know, we're not allowed to accept cumulative gifts in the course of a year from a single person that total more than $100. And we're not allowed to, I think, have food over $75 in a single calendar day from a particular person. But I guess, go ahead, go Sherry.
Is it possible for that person to donate it to the school and that particular teacher has use of it in a classroom?
Absolutely.
Rather than personal?
Absolutely. Then we would vote on accepting it as a gift to the district, and then it would be available for use by the district and then its employees. Yeah, that's still possible.
Right, right.
Well,
Right.
I'm not going to turn down any iPad given to the district, that's for sure. I guess any further questions or comments?
I kept reading it regarding our conferences that we go to and the
Yeah.
different, but, you know, I guess if you eat more than $75, it's a problem, but, you know, I mean, determine that, but.
Yeah. No, yeah. Just be mindful of the limits.
And it aligns with our travel policy. I mean, that is what we give our daily allotment, isn't it? $75, I think? And to align with the food, so, yeah.
So is there a way to speak to somebody at the state about the fact that this hasn't been updated? I mean, they update everything else all the time.
Yes.
We could absolutely talk to, our representatives and ask that they sponsor an amendment to this so that, I think raising it above the level of iPad kind of makes sense, I guess, for
Technology,
For
yeah,
technology.
like even if it were a computer or, anything like that. It's hard to get anything technology related for less than $100.
But yeah, I don't foresee us making any changes just because it really is almost word for word state statute. So.
I had a question about the other part, the political activity part. As long as you sent it to us. And there are two parts of it. And it said, a board member or employee may engage in any activity that is otherwise appropriate as part of his or her official duties or is undertaken by the on a voluntary basis that is not prohibited by this policy. So we had an issue earlier, and I know that I am going against what I said back then. When I sat and read this whole thing all together, the fact that we cannot, it says in here that we cannot require an employee to do some sort of political act. We can't require an employee to help somebody, whatever, get on the ballot or download the stuff. We can't require that. We also can't, I think that if we can't require help to every person that walks in, that we shouldn't then have that help be done on district computers and district time. So if I were going to, let's say if I'm the person who sits at the desk, and I don't know what I'm sure she does not have a lot of downtime, but maybe Ben walks in one day and says, gee, could you help me download the packet to run for the school board? And I say, I've got time today. Yeah, sure, I'll do that. And maybe in a week, Sherry walks in, and I'm really busy that day. And so I said, gee, I'm sorry, I really can't help you, but you can get that at the county clerk's office. Then Sherry, if she hears that I helped Ben, would she think, oh, was that because I'm a woman? Is that because I'm old? I don't mean you're old. Is that because I don't have kids in the district anymore? And so I just think it could have an uncomfortable look. So I think that I, as a person sitting at the desk, if I want to help somebody, that's great. I think that I would have to meet them at the library and show them how to do that and help them do that. That's wonderful. So obviously you wouldn't take that opportunity away from somebody. But I have, like I said, in sitting and reading this, if we won't do it, and I was discussing with somebody weeks ago, this, and I was told that the district doesn't help everybody that comes in and asks for help. That sometimes they just say, oh, we don't give packets anymore, you go to the county clerk's office and pick it up. And so I'm just saying, I don't believe that anything done in this, I don't think anything that district employees are doing is for any kind of nefarious reason. I'm just saying that things can happen and then it doesn't look good to the public. And as I read that, I'm just thinking maybe we do have to make sure that at district facilities, we're not helping some people and not others. And according to this policy, we can't require people to help everyone. So there's a conflict there. And this is totally against what I really believe. But according to the policy, that's how I'm reading it. I mean, because I really believe we should help everybody that walks in the door. But I see this as a conflict, and I actually see it as an important conflict. So that's just.
Well, I read it differently because as I looked through political activity and what it meant, I looked specifically for something like that, and I didn't notice anything. What I've always done, what I've always seen is acting, if somebody has acted in the schools, teacher or any employee, to help another candidate with their getting signatures, having meetings, getting donations, whatever those things, that to me is political activity. To help we've talked about this before. To just give somebody a form that they can fill out themselves is not a political activity. That's more access. It's like being a librarian, giving them information. So I don't agree with that.
Actually, in number 8, initiating for circulation, preparing, circulating, reviewing, or filing any petition on behalf of a candidate for elective office or for or against any referendum question. So initiating for circulation, preparing,
I see
those
that
are.
as if the person who is the employee was getting the petition and getting other people to sign it. That's how I interpret that.
Well, I guess initiating for circulation, to me, that's downloading it, preparing it is,
But it's not circulating anything. A petition is what you're circulating. Filling out a form is different than getting a petition.
well, and like I said, if we're going to say that every single person that walks in gets that benefit, then we should do it. But according to this, because I did have someone tell me that when they walked in, they said, you have to go to the county clerk's office.
Jennifer, real quick for clarification, I think it comes down to who that person spoke with. Like you gave the scenario, you said Ben and then you said Sherry and you were busy with Sherry. Well, you as an employee should know right offhand, you do it for one, you do it for all, period. There's no questions asked, so you can't deny somebody. So I think it all depends on who that person's talking to, because I myself have a different way of sharing a message than our front desk person does, as, you know. So I think a lot has to do with training, and when the elections occur, specific script should be given to the front desk for whoever's sitting at that front desk. So I think a lot has to do with training as well.
Well, that will be great. And so, but it has to be, if we do it for one, we do it for all. If we can do that, according to this, because this says we can't require somebody to do that. So, I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you totally. I would love to say, you know, we should train people that, yes, we're going to help you do this.
Any further comments or discussion? Okay, I don't think we'll be changing this policy either. There is a call for executive session tomorrow at 5:30 at central office for the purpose of student discipline. Superintendent's report.
Okay. So last night, I had a great meeting with some parents, members of our community, staff, and we actually had a couple fifth grade students who attended with their parents around the idea of starting an intramural basketball league for our fifth graders. This is something I think I've shared here at several of our sessions. Sports and other athletic activities at the elementary level was brought up by parents. Our parents ask me, why don't we have basketball for our younger kids? Why do we have to pay to send our kids to Park District when there are a lot of districts that are having soccer and doing some of those things where our students just get to participate? It's something we've talked about doing for years, and we just haven't been able to do it. And since it came up so often through the strategic plan, Yankee Ridge was one of the schools that when I went to the French BPAC meeting, when I went to the Spanish BPAC meeting, both sets of parents were very vocal about wanting to have some more options for their elementary age students. So we had the meeting last night at Yankee Ridge. And based on the number of people who came out, that group, there were about 20 of us who felt very strongly, maybe more than 20, I've got to count again, who we had some coaches, people who have coached in the district for many, many years, and just, people who just want to volunteer and make it happen. We felt like we have enough support for each elementary school to move forward with this. Our Park District is partnering with us, so we would utilize our elementary schools during the week for practices. Games would be on Saturday, and those would be held at the Hawk, with the Health and Wellness Center under the leadership of the Park District. So we'd use their courts, which is great because our students then get to go into that facility, and a lot of our families maybe haven't even been in there yet. So we're going to work on a Google form to get out sign up and recruitment. The goal is starting the last week of October, and that we'd have about 6 weeks of games and practices. And then our hope is that we would keep the groups playing together. So each school team, hopefully we get enough to have a boys and a girls team. Keep them playing and move them right into the January basketball leagues that start at the Park District. The Park District always has scholarships, and they have funding available, but a lot of our families just don't take advantage of it for all kinds of reasons. But we hope that getting the students together by school, kind of learning one another and having these community connections with other families, that we can keep them connected and moving them right into our Park District. I've met with the Park District about partnering on having indoor soccer in February and March. And hopefully, if we can get enough support, some flag football at the end of the year in April and May for girls and boys. So if you're interested and you weren't one of the 45 people who I emailed who answered our survey, let me know. If you are watching this and you really have some experience coaching, or you're a first-time volunteer who just wants to kind of help be a kid wrangler, I call it, because our coaches, when they're heavily into coaching and they've got 10 or 12 kiddos, when somebody needs to go to the bathroom or needs this or needs that, it's great to have an extra adult in those spaces too, to really help be a supporter. So we are very excited about this. There was a lot of positive energy that I've received so far in any of the spaces where I've been, where I've talked about this. So we will keep you posted on how it goes once we start having families sign up. And then last night was the CU Marching Showcase. This is the first one I've missed in a while because I had two other conflicts, one of them being the intramural basketball meeting. But Dr. Franklin represented the district with, of course, our fantastic Tiger Marching Band. They joined Central and Centennial for the annual CU Marching Showcase, which was hosted at Centennial on Monday night. And as always, I saw a lot of video and pictures, and it was covered on a couple of the news channels. So our band, as always, showed well and did a great job. So congratulations, TMB. Walk and Roll to School Day is tomorrow, and it is always during the first week of October, the first full week of October. Several schools hold special activities. The students are encouraged to walk or ride their bikes to school. We often, on this day, we know we have students who don't live close enough to walk, and we would not want some of our kiddos walking from, such far distances or across hazardous roads. So what we do is we bring the school buses a few blocks away from the school, and on this day they can drop at a corner, and those students can have an adult meet them and they get the opportunity to walk to school, if nothing but on this day every year. So it is usually really fun. I usually go to one of the schools. I'm going to be leaving tonight to drive up north for a conference, and so I won't be there, but we still have Mayor Williams will be out. We always have a great representation from the Urbana Police. Chief Boone and Lieutenant Cervantes will be at the high school. We usually have some U of I athletes. I don't know if we know where they're going to be, but we always have nope, Catherine's saying nope, we don't this year maybe. Or we don't know where they're going to be, yes. We usually have some. They just kind of show up at certain schools, so we're not quite sure where they might be. But if you're a parent watching this or a caregiver, and you can get out and walk with your kiddo tomorrow, it's a great time, and they enjoy it. We see people on skateboards, roller skates, they kind of do it all. So that is tomorrow morning. And our UHS cheer team, we wanted to shout them out for a service project that they, at the high school, they cleaned up around UHS as part of service learning. And we're really proud of them for taking some community pride in their school and in their neighborhood and showing their school spirit. So this is a picture of the UHS cheer team. So shout out to them and thank you for your service. Upcoming dates, families watching this, student-led conferences begin Thursday evening, this Thursday from 4 to 8. There's no school for students on Friday because there is continuing. We will be continuing to have our student-led conferences in the morning. And then fall break is the week, next week. All of our buildings are closed that week. October 24th, when we come back, is United Nations Day at King, which is always a really well-attended assembly. We'll have to send you the time because we don't know quite yet if it's usually 9:30ish, but we will get that to you. And October 29th is the academic monogram. So you've probably already received your email from Tamira at the high school. So if you're planning to attend, make sure you let us know because they will reserve a seat for you, and they will, of course, recognize you in the program. So academic monogram, a really fun night to recognize our students who are really achieving and doing great. I think that's it.
There were a series of FOIAs that were processed that were published in our public agenda. At this point, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll see you all in 3 weeks.